All right, good evening. This is an exciting proclamation. I'm going to ask for School Choice Week 2017, I'm going to ask Fusion Charter Principal Susan Nissan and Student Council to come on up. You give them a round of applause. That's all right. I like it. Perfect. Come on up. Come on up. I have to, hold on, get my costume changed. There it is. Very exciting. All right, here we go. I think I'm ready. Come on, stand up here. Good job. Come on up.
I have the student council advisor and one parent with me, as well as the students in the student council.
Perfect. All right. So I'm going to do the formal stuff and read you guys the proclamation about School Choice Week, and then I'm going to turn the microphone over to you all to say why we're wearing yellow and why you guys are so excited about this. All right. So, in honor of School Choice Week, January 22nd through 28th, 2017. Whereas all children in Turlock should have access to the highest quality education possible. And whereas Turlock recognizes the important role that an effective education plays in preparing all students in the city of Turlock to be successful adults. And whereas quality education is critically important to the economic vitality of the city of Turlock. And whereas Turlock is home to a multitude of excellent education options from which parents can choose for their children. And whereas educational variety not only helps to diversify our economy, but also enhances the vibrancy of our community. And whereas our area has many high-quality teaching professionals who are committed to educating our children. And whereas School Choice Week is celebrated across the country by millions of students, parents, educators, schools, and organizations to raise awareness of the need for effective educational options. Now, therefore, I, Gary Sorseth, by the virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Turlock, and on behalf of the entire city council and all our citizens, do hereby recognize January 2nd, 22nd to 28th, 2017 as School Choice Week in the city of Turlock. Congratulations. Absolutely. There you go. There you go. And the microphone is yours.
Thank you. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank Mayor Soyseth and the council members for having us here this evening. This is School Choice Week. It is a non-partisan, non-political organization that is being celebrated by more than 13,000 schools across the nation, and it is to spread public awareness of school choice. So I have here with me our student council advisor, Ms. Scott is right here. And she has a sign that says, "Celebrate Teachers, Celebrate Choice." And I do also have a parent here with me, Mrs. Slama. Then I believe her sign says, "Parents Know Best." That's a big part of school choice. And then we have some students here. If you can hold up your signs as I just say your name. Back here in the back we have Mary. Her sign says, "Let Me Learn." Alexia, "Great teachers change lives." Isn't that true? And then Jasmine, "United for School Choice." And Marquise, "Put Kids First." Ulysses has a sign that says, "Great Teachers Inspire." And does somebody else have one besides Maria? Is Maria the last one? Maria has the important sign for tonight that says, "Turlock Supports Students." And we thank you all very much for supporting us this evening. We look forward to getting a photo with our mayor and council members with their yellow scarves on.
Hey, there it works. Bust them out. Perfect. Well, while they are all putting their scarves on, see, I'm prepared, guys.
Yes.
A couple of you, in your own words, I want to see why you think Fusion Charter has, what's done for you or anything positive. No, I see you shaking your head. Anybody want to come up, step to the plate? There it is, Ulysses.
Okay, well, I know that the Fusion Charter School has done a tremendous job on making sure that everyone has a fair chance to communicate their needs and their necessities during school. I like how how the teachers work with us and show us how to do our things when we have a hard time dealing with our frustrations or when we have a hard time doing our work. I know that they're always there to support us.
All right, very well done. Good. Give them a round of applause, by the way. You guys want to step in the middle? That's where we will take picture. Perfect. Give them a round of applause. I need a lint roller now. I like it. Perfect. Thank you so much. All All right. On this next one, I'm going to stand here while I ask the council as they come up to sit there. We have a vacancy for 2 years on the Planning Commission, and that's one commissioner spot. We had a few applications, but I would like to motion, well, I won't motion, but I'd like to nominate Kristen Betancourt as the nominee for that 2-year spot. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, so I have a motion by Councilmember Esquer, second by Vice Mayor Dehart. Clerk, please call the roll.
Appointing Kristen Betancourt to fill a vacancy on the Planning Commission for a term set to expire on December 31st, 2018. Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soyset.
Yes, motion carries 5-0, and Kristen Betancourt's here. Give him a round of applause.
I just wanted to thank the mayor and the council. Everyone has been very nice to me, and I just hope to serve the city of Turlock well, and I'm really excited to get started. So thank you.
Absolutely, good job. So, thank you so much, Kristen. I'm looking at all my fellow council members with yellow lint all over our jackets. This is good stuff. We'll always remember school choice. All right, moving on to appointment for the Community Development Block Grant Selection Committee. We had 5 committee members, or we have 5 spots, and I would like to push forward Taryn Muralt, Megan Jordan, Anakin Varani, Manuel Jimenez Jr., and Tyler Schaefer.
So moved.
Do I have a second? All right, so we have a motion by Vice Mayor Dehart, seconded by Councilmember Esquer. Clerk, please call the roll.
Appointing Taryn Muralt, Megan M. Jordan, Anakin Varani, Manuel J. Jimenez Jr., and Tyler S. Schaefer as community member representatives to the CDBG Grant Selection Committee.
That's correct.
Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soyset.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Is anyone in the audience, any of those 5 individuals? Come on up. I want you to say a few words. Give me a round of applause. Yeah, to the mic. Yeah. I like the community to see who's going to be representing them on these various committees. So.
Great. Well, my name is Manuel Jimenez, and I'm recently retired from Alameda County Behavioral Health. I was the behavioral health director there. I've actually worked for county government for about 25 years. And really, like, I'm a third generation, what is it, a Turlock? Turlockian? Yeah. So it's really great being able to serve this community. And I look forward to it, and hopefully I can serve in other ways as well.
Absolutely. Thank you
Thank you.
for your service. Give him a round of applause. Thank you. Is there anyone else that was just appointed? All right. Thank you.
Does Kristen want to come up again?
No, I don't think so. Perfect. Moving on. Appointment to the Community Development Block Grant Selection Committee Council Representative. I think that Councilmember Bublak would be good on that committee. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Jacob, seconded by Councilmember Esquer. Clerk, please read back and call the roll.
Appointing Councilmember Bublak as the council representative to the CDBG Grant Selection Committee. Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soyset.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Moving on to item E, Customer Service Academy, presented by Merced College Workplace Learning Resource Center Contract Training Coordinator Terry Plett, but I think going to be introduced by Michael Cook.
That's correct. Good evening, Mayor Soyseth and members of the council. I'd like to introduce to you Terry Plett. He's the contract training coordinator from Merced College's Workplace Learning Resource Center. He wants to give you an update on the Customer Service Academy that we hosted here that was put on by Merced College. And Terry was here exactly a year ago, January 26th, when you entered into the Memorandum of Understanding with Merced College. So over to Terry.
Thank you very much. Hi, it seems like that year went by really fast. I want to thank the council and mayor and city manager for giving Merced College the opportunity to serve your employees. It was a wonderful program that we had. We had 10 classes. Each class was 9 hours, and the topics ranged everything from communication in the workplace, to managing organizational change. So I just wanted to relay some information to you all about your employees and the fantastic job that they did. 43 City of Turlock employees participated in various degrees in our Customer Service Academy. 9 completed the entire program of all 10 classes. The average of those 43 was attending 6.3 classes per person, a really good participation rate. Total city investment for these, one thing before that, the total number of hours training that was for the employees totaled 2,385 training hours for them. And the total city investment was $6,095. About $145 per employee that you invested in your employees so that they could do a better job of serving themselves as city employees, working with each other, and also working with your community. You all need to be really commended for doing that. What an excellent investment that you made. I've taken all the classes, and I absolutely love them. I learned a lot from them. And one of the things that we heard over and over and over again from the evaluations is, thank you for this opportunity. And that thanks goes to you. But the other really important thing that your employees stated over and over again was, I am going to be able to take these skills that I have learned and apply them in my job, in my family, and in my community. And I think that that's the best testimony for your employees that day to day are serving your community and doing a marvelous job. There's also one other person that I really need to thank. I've told everybody at the community college, how did you make that connection? How did you make your program run? Allison Martin's not here today, but Allison Martin was paid by the city of Turlock, but she worked for Merced College in making this program run, and she deserves special recognition for the job that she did in coordinating your employees getting to class on time, being prepared in their training room with all of the supplies and materials, and the program ran smooth because of her help and assistance during that. That's all I have to say. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments from the council? No, I want to echo your thanks and give a round of applause for all their hard work.
Thank you.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to special briefings, we have none. Staff updates. A crowd pleaser, the pet of the month. Let's go. How are we doing on our record, by the way?
Doing great.
Still 100%?
100%.
All right, let's keep the streak going.
Well, I'd like to thank, first of all, the community for the great support we had over
Yeah.
the Christmas holidays. We had a lot of animals adopted, so they got to go home for the holidays. Very
Great.
successful. So, I'll have to try to figure out to do this again. Pet of the Month adoption fees are once again sponsored by our Turlock Management Association. That includes a spay and neuter, microchip, first vaccine, rabies shot, and a license for our City of Turlock residents. This is the Pet of the Month from December. This was Ricky. He was actually not adopted by a Turlock family. He ended up being on our website, and a family in Oregon had requested to adopt him. So he actually got to hitch a ride on one of our rescue groups up to Oregon. So we're waiting for a picture for him, but if I get it, I'll provide that next month. So this is little Ricky now. He's having fun up in the Oregon coast area.
Cool.
Pet of the Month for January, this is 12-24. I'm happy to say that she was adopted last week before
Hey.
this presentation was out. So we are actually going to be having another Pet of the Month here this next week that we'll be putting on our website.
Yep.
But she was adopted to a family who absolutely fell in love with her. Her picture is available on our Facebook page. So she's a really sweet lap dog. She was with us for quite a while, so we were happy to see that happen.
Yeah.
Starting February 1st, we'll have our February promotion of Stop That Loving Feeling. This is the 4th year. It's a catchy phrase. So this is the
I don't
4th
get
year
it. Can
we've
you
had this
explain a little
program.
bit more? I don't
Yeah, okay.
All right,
Yeah,
thanks.
so we'll explain that to you later. So basically what happened, we chose the month of February because of the grants that we have been able to receive. But the last 2 years, we did receive a grant from the state of California. And the only reason why we got this grant was because we already had this program in place. So the last 2 years, we actually used our grant money and did not use this program. But because the state of California has suspended grant fees, we have implemented and brought this back for the month of February. It is a voucher-based system, which could not happen without the support of 4 of our local veterinarians who actually offer their low-cost spay and neuter fees and rabies shots to us to reimburse that to our community members. So for $50 for the voucher includes getting your animal spayed and neutered, a microchip, a rabies vaccine, and a 1-year license to our City of Turlock residents. We are restricting this to only Chihuahuas, Terriers, and their mixes on this particular promotion, and it's limited to 100 vouchers. The reason why it has restrictions are these are the 3 mixed breeds, Chihuahua, Terriers, and the mixes, that impact our facility the most. So about 85% of our population right now is the Chihuahuas and Terriers. So these are the ones that actually stay in our facility the longest because we are trying to promote them to other rescue groups and organizations. And so we like to try to help those pet owners, so hopefully we can stop that flow of animals coming into our facility. So that will be for the month of February or until they are all gone. We're hoping that if there's any of the vouchers left at the end of the month that people can call us in and we might be able to lift it for some of the other breeds that may need that for our community members. Again, our animal shelter is located 801 South Walnut. We're open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 2. And please visit our Facebook page and our website. Do you have any questions?
Any questions or comments for Glenna? No, thank you so much. Keep up the hard work, and
Thank you, guys.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
So much. Give her a round of applause.
Glenn, I forgot to tell you that that slogan is for February because for those of you, just as a reminder, it is Valentine's Day on the 14th.
Nice.
Don't forget that loving feeling.
All right, perfect. Public safety briefing. Acting Chief.
Mayor, council members, I'm really happy to bring you the public safety briefing. This is actually a fourth quarter report for you. There's quite a bit of information here that I've provided for you, and I will try to hit some of the key points. Also for the general public, there are documents on the back table for you. It's public information. As you can see, the top 3 calls continue to remain exactly as we've seen unfold for us at the police department. For year to date, our suspicious person type calls are number 1, and you can see the numbers there, 1,992. And we continue to see burglaries with the numbers that you see there, and I'll address that a little bit more as we get towards the back of this document, because I think you'll be happy with what we've been able to achieve. If you look at our response times, I think it's important that you take a real quick look at that. While you see that our response time for December of 2016 was 6 minutes and 8 seconds, which is it is a minute off of what it was in 2015. The totality of our response time for priority 1 calls is a 3% decrease. Staff has been working diligently in order to bring those numbers down in accordance with council's wishes and actually the community's wishes. You call a police officer for a priority 1 crime, and for those of you that don't know what that is, it's life-threatening, immediate destruction of property. We need to get there, and we need to get there now. These numbers are also utilized, we get that from our current CAD system, computer-aided dispatch, which is over 20 years old. So there's a little bit of human functions in these numbers in order to get them as close as accurate as possible. So you'll continue to see that decrease as we progress forward. Service demands, you'll notice that we had an increase in the amount of reports written. And that is significant for us because the message went out clearly to staff that we wanted our officers to take more time with our customers, our citizens, our victims of crimes, and to ensure that their needs are being met. So there was an increase in reports while there was a decrease in service calls. So that should tell you that our officers are self-initiating these contacts. They're not called in. And that's a big deal, and you'll see why in a minute. If you look for our top 3 calls for service, suspicious persons for 2016 again was the top, but it was a 4% decrease over 2015. A very significant number on the bottom of page 1 is our officer-involved use of force. I thought it was important to start including this information based on what's going on in our nation and our society in regards to police departments and officers utilizing force, the type of training we put forth in order to minimize that utilization of force. We really are working diligently to ensure that our officers are properly trained, and hopefully in the future we'll have another program coming in to address critical incident type responses in regards to individuals with mental health issues and so forth. But if you'll look at that, you'll notice that a number of use of force incidents for 2016 was a 27% decrease, while our number of arrests went up 32%. So we continue to provide the community with public safety, but we do it through compliance measures and try not to have to use force unless it's absolutely necessary. And the use of force for the general public is not what you see on TV where an officer points a gun and has to take a life. And that is the ultimate use of force, which no one wants to happen. But anytime we use any type of physical manipulations where it can cause injury, or we have to use an impact weapon because someone is refusing to comply, that's the type of use of force. So I just wanted to make that clear. Some very positive information, our proactive efforts. You'll remember that we've really put a very strong push towards our social media, educating the public, community buy-in, and getting the community more oriented in helping themselves. You'll remember the YouTube videos that we put on during Christmas and the holidays and Halloween. Here you're going to see a huge impact. Area of Monte Vista Crossing, that's one of our biggest shopping centers in the city of Turlock. We heard loud and clear. Our community was concerned regarding the vehicle break-ins. Our businesses were concerned regarding the issues that were going out in the parking lot and the thefts that were occurring. We directed additional staffing patrol using overtime. It cost. But staff, I've got to say I'm extremely proud of what they did. They not only signed up for the overtime, besides all the other overtime they're working, but they actually went above and beyond and did exactly what we want. And when I say we, it's the community, all of us. Making contact with our citizens, having talks with them inside the Home Depot on those little trikes, went a long ways. And you can see the impact because for the same time period, 2016 versus 2015, we had a 25%, let me repeat that, a 25% decrease in your break-ins at Monte Vista Crossing. That's big. I'm not sure that we've ever seen that type of number. And that's not only because of staff's commitment to the public's needs, but it's also getting the community buy-in. The community is the police is the community. We need to get that buy-in, and we need to help people understand how to protect themselves. And those YouTube videos were huge, along with staff participating in the interaction. So I wanted to point that out to council. I think that's huge. I'll leave the social media for you to look at. You'll see all the endeavors we've continued to do, the TPD tip line, the press releases, the instantaneous Facebook, social media, Twitter, Nextdoor, department events that we broadcast. So you can see all the numbers and the huge numbers we have. I will point out that on Facebook we do have reaches of up to 156,720 people. That's more than our population here in Turlock, so we're obviously exceeding. We're reaching out beyond Turlock, so it's good news. That way more people will come to Turlock to live here because this is a wonderful community. I want to focus your attention to our Part 1 crimes. Under your policy goals and implementation plan, which we just discussed in the previous meeting, 3.2.1, Council has directed the police department over the lifespan of that document to drop our numbers in regards to crime rates by 5%. If you'll look, we have achieved 8% for the year of 2016 reduction in the total number of Part 1 crimes. We have reduced the crime rate from last year's 44.1 to 39.99. I can't be happier with our staff. Our police officers, our dispatchers, every one of our non-sworn support staff have all, within the last 4 to 5 months, just put throttle down and have gone to work. They've utilized all of their free time. Our officers, and the city manager talked about this, what is available time for a police officer? Well, when a police officer has an 11-hour shift and they come to work, besides their briefing time and their time to get dressed and the time to make sure that the vehicle is equipped properly, to put the fuel in, their available time is that time which is not dedicated to responding to a call, investigating a call, writing reports. So what I did was I took an opportunity to go to all the briefings and explain to our staff how important it is to interact with our community, to understand the community needs. And when I say community, folks, I'm talking about the direction of this council, who the constituents are the community. It was very clear that we had to engage differently with the staffing members we had. And we had to understand that it's not going to work for us to say, sorry, we don't have the manpower to do it. Can't do it. We're going to say, that needs to get done, and how are we going to do it? And that's the approach our staff did. I'm so proud of our officers that they utilized every opportunity they had to provide the extra patrol in the parks, to be downtown, to be in our shopping centers, to be in the neighborhoods, every free chance they had. We had a 27% available time for officers before we started this program, before August. That is a high number considering the low number of officers we have of 78 staffing when we had 86 back in 2009. You would think their available time would decrease. Well, their available time was at roughly 27%. They utilized that time to bring down your crime rates, to address these problems. And I've got to point out to you that there was a lot of overtime placed in there. There was a lot of directed focus placed in there in regards to the needs of the community and the complaints we had and we addressed. Councilmember Jacob, you made a mention earlier that we need to make sure we close the loops when the complaints come in. We focused on that for the last 4 months. You know, our tip line is focused on addressing the tip that comes in and making sure the citizen knows that we've responded to them, how we've dealt with the problem. So that's extremely important to the police department, and I know, speaking to our department heads here, we're a wonderful team together, and this is a team approach. I just can't say enough about how proud I am about our police officers and our community service officers and the work that they've done. You see the numbers here, and I don't want to take up any more of your time, but I'm very happy with what our staff has done. So, I have any questions that I can
Absolutely.
answer?
Any questions or comments for the acting chief?
Comment real quick.
Yes.
So I really like that Monte Vista Crossings 25% decrease. That's outstanding. And as we look towards trying to decide on bringing more businesses here, economic development, business people are going to hear about this and understand. I mean, that's one of our biggest revenue bases, and so that's really a positive. And I appreciate you and all your staff for doing that.
Thank you, council member. The leadership that our supervisors and our individual officers have shown to achieve this is beyond any words I have. So, thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments for the chief? All right, thank you so much. Chief Deloney.
Total of 485 emergency medical calls for service, 37 motor vehicle accidents, including 20 motor vehicle accidents with injuries, 10 motor vehicle accidents with no injuries, 4 motor vehicle versus pedestrian accidents, and 3 motor vehicle with victim extrications. We had a total of 7 hazardous material calls and 63 assist invalid, which is lift assist calls for service at private residences and private care occupancies. On page 3, we have provided a pie chart reflecting the percentage of the type of calls that we went to. EMS was a total of 57% of our total call volume. Fire calls were 23 calls of 2.7%. Motor vehicle accidents at 4.4%. Fire alarms at 6.7%. Public assist at 11.2%. And finally, no patient contact at 13.4%. We were turned around en route or canceled. On page 4 of that document, you'll notice the operational highlights. The training division highlights are on page 5. 6 is fire prevention. If I call your attention on page 7, I'd like to, the far right column, the total number of incidents and the total number of inspections were 609. Vehicle issued address were 93. Signs removed is 232. Graffiti abated 151. Shopping carts addressed is 105. And refuse removed over 2,600 pounds of refuse. 20,000 600 pounds of refuge. Fire calls of note of interest are on page 8, 9, and 10. And I'd like to reference page 10 in our city, see our city attorney and in action writing out with our firefighters. Last, as an FYI, last Saturday, we had firefighters held a crab feed for money for random acts of kindness. Don't know the final dollar amount, but it's usually raised about 1/3 of the total funds. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions or comments, other than the fact that the city attorney seems to be putting out a fire at Fire Station 1, which is disheartening, unless there's no actual fire, which means you're a fake. Which one is it, city attorney? That's right, a fake. Got it. No, I appreciate it. Any questions or comments from the council on this? Yeah, where's the crab? Yeah. I appreciate these, Chief. These are spot on, exactly what we want. To the public, we also get daily updates. We understand the numbers. We also are all subscribed as council members. I think my phone just went off, so there might be something happening. But we understand what's going on in the community. Those massive events come to us, so we're tracking it, and you guys are doing an excellent job. Again, if they are ever in a point where they feel they didn't hit things perfectly, it doesn't take any of us up here or the city manager or even the fire chief to correct them. You guys already start course correcting and doing all your after action reviews. So that's the type of department you are. Can't speak your praises enough. This is exactly what we want to see. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments? No, thank you so much, Chief. Appreciate it. All right, now we have another item that's not on the agenda, but these are staff updates, so similar to public participation for our directors to talk to us. So this is the, well, I won't steal your thunder, Director Schultz, well, Acting Director Schultz.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, City Council. As we look up on the screens, you'll see the new Welcome to Turlock sign out at Pedretti Park. That'll be visible to southbound traffic. The reason we're bringing this forward is the sign is part of a joint effort between the city and the university to enhance the Town and Gown initiative, and it focuses on promoting the community and emphasizes Turlock and being a proud home of CSU Stanislaus. So I'm proud to say that sign is up and looks great.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much for your hard work. This was President Shealy, before President Jun came in, had talked about that, and we actually, Vice Mayor, you've talked about this for years, about how you want to see more signage of Turlock on 99, and so we married the idea from President Shealy with some of the concerns that the Vice Mayor had about branding and putting our name out there, and this is a selection by President Shealy before he left. I think it looks great, and it was also one of those situations where we had an existing billboard that was ours that we were able to do this, and so I think this works out fantastic. Any questions or comments from the council on this item? Yes, Vice Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I think the only thing that really needs to be said further by way of explanation is the reason that some of these things take as long as they do is Caltrans has very specific requirements in terms of safety issues. And so if every T is not crossed and I dotted, project cannot move forward. Well, so many kudos to staff and university and the whole process for getting this particular sign and hopefully future identification for our city along 99. Good job. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And it also should be noted, staff, when they looked at different options for signage, because of those stringent requirements, you have very costly monument signs that could be gone through, or we could go down that road. But this was a very cost-effective opportunity for us, and so I think it turned out really well.
Yeah,
I
it's a
agree with
vinyl
you.
wrap, so it's much less expensive. And
Perfect. Absolutely. Thank you so much. All right, moving on to public participation. This is time set aside for the public to address the council on any item that they'd like. There are blue cards in the back that you can fill out. If there's an item on the agenda that you'd like to speak to, I ask you to hold your comments or questions for that item. So with that, I'll open it for public participation. Seeing none, that was last week. Moving on to item 4A, motion weaving, closed public participation. Moving on to item 4A, motion weaving reading of all ordinances on the agenda except by title. All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Jacob, second by Vice Mayor Dehart. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart?
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Mayor Soyset?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Declaration of conflicts of interest and disqualifications. Looking left and right, seeing none. Disclosure of top 10 maximum contributors. We do have a green sheet addition from Councilman Esquer. But you can find our top 10 maximum contributors on our agendas online, and you can always ask the clerk if you would like an additional copy. Consent calendar. Other than item I, the resolution has been asked to be removed for consideration tonight. The motion will still be there. Are there any other items to be removed? All right, so what's the pleasure of the council?
Pass.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Bublak, seconded by Vice Mayor Dehart for the amended consent calendar. Clerk?
Adopting the amended consent calendar. Councilmember Esquer?
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart?
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Mayor Soyset?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Moving on to final readings. Before we get into these items, I would like to address item 6A, which the amendments that we introduced by the council on the January 10th meeting have been incorporated into the final ordinance on 6C, D, and E for the record. All right, so with that, clerk, please read 6A.
Amending Turlock Municipal Code Title 4, Chapter 7, Article 14, Section 2, regarding altered speed limits, as introduced on January 10th, 2016. Councilmember Esquer?
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart?
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Mayor Soyset?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. On item 6B, because we're going to read
I'm
it.
sorry, I need to correct that. I did say January 10th, 2016, and that was introduced on January 10th, 2017.
Who was asleep at the wheel and didn't catch that? All of us. Apologize. Can you please reread it and do it correctly this time, City Clerk? Thank you. I'm teasing. Sorry.
I would be happy to. Would you like me to?
Oh. Yeah, let's do that just for the comfort of the city attorney.
Amending Turlock Municipal Code Title 4, Chapter 7, Article 14, Section 2, regarding altered speed limits, as introduced on January 10th, 2017. And I'll take the vote one more time. Councilmember Esquer?
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart?
Still yes.
Councilmember Bublak?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Mayor Soyset?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. And for that exact purpose, this next item on 6B, because the clerk will be reading out loud, she actually pre-recorded it, and we'll be playing that back to make sure that everything is accurate. So,
My only concern is I wonder if I said 2016 in the recording.
well, we
So I'm going to just go ahead and read it if we feel
then
more
you can go ahead and do that.
Okay. I set up a different plan, but we'll go with the safe route. Amending Turlock Municipal Code Title 8, Chapter 1, Article 1, Section 2, Subsection A regarding adoption. Title 8, Chapter 1, Article 1, Section 3, Subsection A regarding finding of necessity for stricter standard. Title 8, Chapter 1, Article 1, Section 4, Subsections F, G, H, I, P, Q, and R regarding amendments, additions, and deletions to the California Building Code. Title 8, Chapter 1, Article 1, Section 5, regarding amendments, additions, and deletions to the California Residential Code. Title 8, Chapter 1, Article 1, Section 6, regarding amendments, additions, and deletions to the California Mechanical Code. Title 8, Chapter 1, Article 1, Section 7, regarding amendments, additions, and deletions to the California Plumbing Code. Title 8, Chapter 2, Section 2, regarding adoption of the Electrical Code of the City of Turlock. Title 8, Chapter 2, Section 7, regarding special requirements, residential. Title 8, Chapter 2, Section 8, regarding special requirements, commercial and industrial buildings. Title 8, Chapter 5, Article 1, Section 2, regarding adoption of the Plumbing Code of the City of Turlock. Title 8, Chapter 5, Article 1, Section 3, regarding administrative authority. Title 8, Chapter 6, Article 1, Section 2, regarding adoption of the Mechanical Code of the City of Turlock, as introduced on January 10th, 2017.
That's correct.
Councilmember Esquer?
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart?
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Mayor Soyset?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Moving on to item C.
Adding Turlock Municipal Code Title 6, Chapter 5, Article 3, Section 4, entitled Excessive Water Use Targets and Penalties, Title 6, Chapter 5, Article 3, Section 5, entitled Appeal, and Title 6, Chapter 5, Article 3, Section 6, entitled Appeal Hearing Request, as introduced on January 10th, 2017. Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember DeHart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
No.
Mayor Soisa.
Yes, motion carries 4-1.
For item D, we have amending Turlock Municipal Code Title 4, Chapter 2, creating Article 1 entitled Turlock Disaster Council, using existing sections 1 through 8, and adding Article 2 entitled Stanislaus Disaster Council, as introduced on January 10th, 2017. Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember DeHart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soisa.
Yes, motion carries 5-0.
Item E, amending Turlock Municipal Code Title 5, Chapter 21, regarding medical and non-medical marijuana regulations, creating Article 1 entitled Medical Marijuana Regulations, using existing sections 1 through 4, creating Article 2 entitled Non-Medical Marijuana Regulations, and amending Title 3, Chapter 1, Article 1, Section 1, regarding statement and purpose of chapter prohibitions, as introduced on January 10th, 2017. Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember DeHart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soisa.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much, Clerk. Moving on to public hearings, we have none. But item 8A, it is an exciting item. A request to accept and consent to the city manager's appointment of Nino C. Amifar to the position of Chief of Police for the City of Turlock Police Department, effective January 24th, 2017. Mr. City Manager.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Thank you very much. As you are well aware, in the summer of 2016, former Chief Robert Jackson and myself concluded that a leadership change was necessary in the Turlock Police Department to achieve the future goals of this city council and the expectations of this community. Following former Chief Jackson's exit from the city council authorized the contract with executive search firm Bob Murray and Associates to assist in locating Turlock's next police chief through an aggressive recruiting and executive search. The firm identified 38 candidates for the position, including 2 of our captains. The candidates came from a broad range of law enforcement agencies and experience located across several western U.S. states, as well as within the San Joaquin Valley region. Through the profile developed by the executive search firm, created through interviews with the police department staff, the Police Officers Association board members, the Turlock department heads, city council, and many community members, the candidate pool of 38 was screened down to 15 most suited candidates. With my input, those 15 candidates were further screened down to the 8 most qualified. The final 8 candidates underwent a comprehensive series of interviews with a community panel comprised of residents, business owners, faith-based organizations, nonprofit organizations, leaders, and human rights organizations. A combined city department head and Turlock police officer panel, as well as a panel of executives composed of school superintendent, police chiefs, city manager, and city attorney. With the exception of the city attorney, all those individuals are from outside the city, so I did not sit on that selection interview panel. As you know, the interview panel yielded a ranking of the candidates, the top 8, identifying the top 3 candidates that stood out among those 8. I subsequently interviewed those 3 candidates, identifying 2 of the 3 for interview by City Council. On January 12th, City Council convened a closed session meeting to conduct those interviews. During that closed session, I presented City Council with 2 candidates for interview, identifying Captain Ninos Amirfar as my recommended appointment. Council completed the interviews and confirmed my recommendation. City of Turlock Municipal Code Section 2-4-207C empowers the city manager to appoint, remove, promote, demote all subordinate employees without consent of council. However, in the case of a department head, such as the police chief, city council consent is required. Subsequent to my presentation and recommendation, as well as your subsequent interviews on January 12th, the item before you tonight formally seeks your consent via resolution of the city council to appoint Captain Ninos Amafar as Turlock's Chief of Police. Each of you have previously been made aware of Chief Amirafar's background and qualifications. He is a 27-year law enforcement veteran with nearly his entire career spent with the city of Turlock. He is a man of great integrity, work ethic, always putting this community's best interest first. There's much more I can say, but Mayor, I'll reserve those comments for the formal swearing-in ceremony unless you or the City Council has any questions at this time regarding his background. With your adoption of the resolution before you, consenting to the appointment of Ninos Amafar, his appointment date shall be effective this date. Ninos Amafar will be appointed under the current police chief salary range 44.1 attached to your staff report and receive the benefits outlined in the schedule of benefits from all management employees. Ninos Amafar will also receive a uniform allowance consistent with that provided to peace officers covered under the Turlock Associated Police Officers MOU. Your consent and adoption of the resolution will culminate in the formal swearing-in of Ninos Amafar to the police chief position on Thursday, January 26th at 11 a.m. at the Assyrian American Civic Club on Golden State Boulevard. Mayor, members of council, this completes my report this evening. I have much more detail to add at the formal swearing-in ceremony should you adopt tonight's resolution. Thank you.
Thank you so much, City Manager. Are there any initial questions or comments from the council on this item? All right, I'm going to open it for public comments. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this item? Okay, I'll close public comment and bring it back to the council. Councilmember Bublak.
So knowing that we didn't vote until tonight, I haven't wished you congratulations, because I'm kind of weird about those kind of things. And I won't be able to attend. Presumably everybody will vote for you. And so I wanted to make this this resolution, offer the resolution, and wish you good luck.
Okay. Oh, absolutely, yes. Please come to the microphone.
My name is Pastor George Abbas, United Assyrian Evangelical Church.
You want to come to the microphone real quick? Everyone at home likes to hear. I know everyone at home can't hear you though. Yeah.
Maybe they can't.
I know, right?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. My name is Pastor George Abbas. I'm pastor now for the United Assyrian Evangelical Church. And I've been in this community for the last 35 years. We came from Chicago, Windy City, and of course Turlock's turning windy too lately. So I also served as a police chaplain for many years at the time of Chief Flan Lott. And I know dear brother, our new chief Ninos, for many, many years. We worked together and then go after community, Assyrian community, American community, the problems and the need. I seen him a man of like a steel. He stands there and he's always sure of what he's doing, and not only the Assyrian community but the Turlock community is really proud of such a man like dear brother Ninos, and also of you folks. And for many years you guys have been serving in this town as we come together to be one and look after the security of our town. May the Lord bless you and guide you and direct you. Congratulations and praise the Lord. Shukran al-Maryan. Thank you, Jesus. Give him a good hand. Come on now. Yeah. Hallelujah.
Like Councilmember Bublak said, there's only a motion and a second on the floor. That's it. We haven't voted yet there, Acting Chief. Any other public comments since I opened it up? All right, coming back to the council. Any additional questions or comments? I did hear a second from Councilmember Jacob. Any additional comments? Yes, Vice Mayor.
Absolutely no doubt in my former military mind that this council and the contribution of numerous citizens, participants in the screening process, interview process, has made the most outstanding decision we could possibly make. Congratulations. And I assume that 5 votes will make it official. Congratulations once again.
Any other comments? Questions? All right, well, I first met Captain Amafar as a school resource officer, and when I was at Turlock High School, and I'll save some of those stories for your official swearing in on Thursday at 11 o'clock. But it is with great honor and pride to accept this motion, accept this second, and calls for a vote. So we have a motion by Councilmember Bublak, seconded by Councilmember Jacob. Clerk, please read back the motion and call the roll.
accepting and consenting to the city manager's appointment of Nino C. Amirfar to the position of Chief of Police for the City of Turlock Police Department, effective January 24th, 2017. Councilmember Esquer,
Absolutely, yes.
Councilmember Dehart,
Definitely, yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
10-4.
Councilmember Jacob,
Enthusiastically, yes.
Mayor Soiseth.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Captain Amafar, you're now Chief Amafar. Congratulations.
The city manager has had great faith in me, and I've got to. He's been my mentor since he came to this police department in regards to my leadership abilities and understanding what it means to have the trust of the community. I've loved Turlock since the day I was brought up here by my mother and father for our Syrian conventions. I remember the smell of the daisies and so forth at the old Divine Gardens, and I've loved Turlock ever since then. It was an honor to work in this community and live in this community. It's been an honor to raise my children here, who are now, I have 2 grandkids that are being raised here. They graduated from the college here, and it's been an honor to serve this community for the last 26 and a half years. And it's an honor that the trust that this community has put in me, this council has put in me, who is representative of this community. It's an honor to stand here before you and say thank you, and I will not let you down. Your priorities are my priorities. Your safety is my priority. This community's continued vibrance and the quality of life that we all enjoy is our priority. You are the police department, and the police department is you. That's what we're here for. We're just human beings doing the work that our community asks us to do, and we will continue to do that in the manner that you've come to expect from the Turlock Police Department and the manner that this council is directing us. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So, Mr. Mayor, I would just like to state that the chief has like 10 minutes to put the appropriate attire on, such as Chiefs stars. You can retire your bars.
Pretty good. I like it. Well, there's a proud father back there, and that's something that we like to see. Yeah, he's excited for you. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. There she is. Well, we can be a little solemn with this, but there's going to be a celebration on Thursday at 11 o'clock at the Assyrian Hall. So we're looking forward to celebrating you and your family and your contribution to Turlock and your future contributions to Turlock. So thank you so much, Chief. All right, it rolls off well. All right, perfect. With that, we have some other business to attend to, if that's okay. All right, moving on to item 8B, a request to determine city project number 16-73 City Hall renovation is exempt from the provisions of California Environmental Quality Act, and approve the advertisement for construction bids for city project number 16-73 City Hall renovation. Director Pitcock.
Tough act to follow.
Yeah, so, right.
Congratulations, Dino. Looking forward to working with you. At the city manager's direction, staff developed a comprehensive project that combined multiple small renovations here at the various buildings of City Hall. The various components of the project consist of relocation of a portion of Administrative Services Department, relocation of the Planning Division to Engineering, construction of a secured area for finance, cubicle and office modifications in the finance, planning, and engineering areas, security upgrades at City Hall, parks, recreations, and public facilities maintenance, Wi-Fi enhancements at City Hall, parks, recreation, and public facilities maintenance, the regional water quality control facility, as well as the corporation yard. Specifically, there was a need to relocate the administrative services director, payroll, and purchasing to the first floor of City Hall within an area vacated by planning. Space is tight, but available in engineering for planning personnel with the modifications to the cubicles layouts. Although there is not enough room to provide all of the planning files. So therefore, the downstairs break room will be converted into a storage area to accommodate all the planning files. The upstairs break room in the municipal services area will serve as a break room for City Hall. In addition to the personnel relocation, we are going to be doing some security upgrades, including ballistic panels, security upgrades, camera upgrades for parts of City Hall, parks, recreation, and public facilities, and maintenance. These security measures are recommended where monetary exchanges occur. Lastly, due to the poor or no service, Wi-Fi enhancements are needed in the following areas. First floor, City Hall, the finance, building, and engineering areas, parks, recreation, and public facilities maintenance, the regional water quality control facility, and the corporation yard. If the council approves the project concept and authorizes advertisement to bid, the anticipated bidding schedule as follows. Project will be advertised February 1st. Construction bids will be due February 23rd, and council requests to award the bid would come back before you on March 28th. Renovations are estimated at $285,000. Funding will come from capital facilities fees, the general government fund. The need for general fund dollars is not anticipated. At this time, staff is requesting authorization to proceed with the bids, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Absolutely. Any questions, comments? Can you repeat that last part about no general fund dollars will be needed?
We are going to do everything we can possible to stay out of the general fund.
All right, thank you. Just
So,
by hearing. City
Mayor,
manager,
if I
yes.
could just add to that, everything possible means that we're not going to bring you an option to utilize general
Right.
fund money. But as every good engineer, he keeps all options open.
Yeah.
I just want to make clear, this is a renovation. We are trying to create more workspace within the same footprint. We are not expanding the City Hall footprint. We're not adding floors to the footprint. We're converting storage areas to workspace. We're converting lunchrooms to workspace. And this really is the final step for extending this building out, the lifespan of this building out for another 5 to 8 years before the city's going to have to undertake a capital project to either go up, out, or replace the building. So this will meet our needs for at least 5 to 8 years, and in government speak, that means for 10 to 20.
Right. Absolutely. Any additional questions from the council on this item? All right, open it for public participation. Anyone from the public like to address the council on this item? Yep, Mr. Puck.
Hour to get inside the building, to go through that screening process. So I'm wondering if that's what we have to look forward to here in Turlock.
Mayor, I can take that
Yes,
question.
please.
There will be increased and enhanced security measures that will be seamless to the community. They will be in the manner of materials that we use, as well as increased remote monitoring capabilities for the police department of City Hall. They really are our security outlet, if you will. So this is not a matter of adding security wherein we're doing any checking, frisking, metal detecting of any of our visitors. This is all internal seamless security.
That's very nice to hear. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any additional comments? Thank you. Additional comments or questions? All right. Closing public comment, bringing it back to council. What additional comments, questions
Introduce the resolution?
do I have? All right. We have a motion by Councilmember Bublak, second by Councilmember Jacob. Clerk, please read back and call the first resolution, not the motion.
Determining city project number 16-73, City Hall renovation is exempt from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, in accordance with Section 15301, existing facilities of the CEQA guidelines. Councilmember Esquer?
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart?
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Mayor Soiseth?
Yes, resolution passes 5-0. And what is the pleasure of the council on the motion?
Second.
All right, so we have a motion by Councilmember Jacob, second by Councilmember Bublak on the motion. Please read back.
Approving the advertisement for construction bids for city project number 16-73, City Hall renovation. Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soiseth.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much. Moving on to item C, a request to designate the annual California State University Stanislaus Tournament of Champions softball tournament a city co-sponsored event. Mr. Schultz.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and City Council. City staff, in partnering with California State University Stanislaus Athletics, is proposing co-sponsoring of the annual CSUS Tournament of Champions softball tournament held at Pedretti Park and California State University. Every spring, CSUS tournament brings 24 collegiate softball teams to the city of Turlock. While visiting, these teams stay at our hotels, dine at our restaurants, and shop locally. These factors confirm the event's positive impact on tourism in Turlock and helps foster the city's goal of drawing more visitors to our community. This initiative also supports our efforts to strengthen the town and gown relationship between the city and CSUS. Co-sponsorship of the tournament will help to significantly offset CSUS's costs to host the tournament in Turlock. Costs associated with the tournament are primarily in the form of Pedretti Park rentals, stipends for game officials, and lodging for officials. If the CSUS Tournament of Champions is designated a city co-sponsored event, the city manager would be authorized to allocate co-sponsoring funds of the term of 3 years not to exceed $10,000 annually, including any funds already designated through the Community Events and Activities Grant Program. The mayor will also conduct an annual review to determine the event's benefits to tourism. A line item budget will be established within the tourism fund formerly designated the city co-sponsoring of the event. This is similar to what we've done co-sponsoring the 4th of July fireworks event. As you can see, there'll be no general fund dollars in this also. It's coming out of tourism. Now I'd like to invite up our athletic director, Mr. Mike Matosa, to provide you guys a little more information on the event. Thank you, Mike.
Absolutely. There's a question from Vice Mayor.
Just clarification, Eric, before Mike begins. In the narrative here, it indicates that we're authorizing, or the city manager would be authorized. The last paragraph says the city manager will also. Are we excluding the mayor on this? Is this a co-responsibility? You indicated mayor, and so I'm.
I'll let the city manager answer that question.
So he, I believe he misspoke.
Okay.
So the manager will be evaluating annually, and if the council so desires, reporting, but you'll see that in your annual budget under revenue. We do believe, so the item before you request authorization of the city manager to commit up to $10,000 annually from the tourism fund. And I'm absolutely confident that any money we commit to this annual tournament, we will see returned back to the city within 30 days of the tournament. It has that direct of an impact to our tourism.
Thanks for the clarification.
Thanks.
I'd just like to thank the city council for reviewing this and also for the opportunity from the city to possibly co-sponsor the event. This would really help us out with our planning, as well as the other universities that we invite to this event. This is universities from Oregon, Washington, Hawaii, Canada, Arizona, and most universities will schedule 2 to 3 years out. So this, again, knowing that this funding would be there to help us out would be very helpful. I'd also like to thank the Parks and Rec Division for, we've had some other teams have brought concerns with the fields in the past, and I think the last year was really, they did a great job with meeting those demands of teams come here for a really competitive event, and with that also requires, having the best umpires that we can hire. And since I've been here in 5 years, the cost of the umpires have actually doubled for what we're bringing, as well as the lodging of staff members from other universities to come run the event, because it is such a large event for our entire staff. So I appreciate you guys looking at this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mr. Matosa, real quick, so this works out really well, but the reciprocity, are you interested in kind of opening your doors for the pool to us as well for Parks and Recreation and Master Swim?
It's funny you bring that up, because the pretty little pool behind my building actually does not report to me. I have been very vocal in my stance that pool should be open to the community. I actually have a meeting with my supervisors tomorrow, and I will bring that back up to them as well. So, yes.
Yes, Vice Mayor. I think you set something off. Anyway, go ahead, Vice Mayor.
And as an add-on, some of us cannot do a whole lot of damage on tracks anymore. However, the damage on the bodies caused by sidewalks might be greatly alleviated if we could limp around the track. Is that something you could help us with as well?
Yeah, I can bring that up as well. It's an interesting. I mean, Amy knows a little bit about the SRC, which is the Student Recreation Center, was actually built all with student fees. So again, even though our department is the main user from the standpoint of the track and the fields, that area still does not report to me. So we don't schedule it, we don't run it, we don't do anything with, who has access to it. It is something that I think now with the change in leadership, that is going to be brought up. I know I brought it up. There's new supervision of that area as well. I know for us, last weekend we hosted Turlock Christian homecoming at our event. We've been opening up our events for Turlock and Pittman for their annual soccer event. We're hosting the county all-star baseball game at our baseball facility. So we've been trying to open up the facilities as much as we can that we can control. But again, I hopefully with a little bit of change in the recent leadership that's some other things that will change in that area.
So I like playing basketball, and your gymnasium is really. No, I'm kidding. All right, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
But we got a liability waiver for you.
Absolutely,
fine,
yeah.
So
in all seriousness, I definitely don't want to gloss over the pool access, and so if you could take that to
without
supervisors.
question. It's trust me, I hear it all the time because it's sitting right outside my building.
Yeah.
So, but again, it doesn't report to me.
Yeah.
But obviously, like I said, we've been very vocal in our stance with that they should be, and I think it is moving definitely that direction. It's just as Gary kind of alluded to a minute ago about city time, state time can be sometimes the same manner with getting things done on campus. So, but I think it is definitely moving in that direction, and I will for sure pass on that message tomorrow.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. With that, any questions or comments from the public on this item? All right. Closing public participation, bringing it back to the council. Councilmember Bublak.
So just as a historian, because I've been here way too long on the council, on Stanislaus, it actually in 2005, it was brought to Turlock. It was actually at Rainbow Fields, which we're really fortunate to get it. At the time, Coach Jan Sheckfoots brought it forward, and so I'm really glad that it has really grown to such a huge thing, and people want to do this. They want to come here. It's a great venue. For a couple years, we did have some issues with the pitching mound and things like that, so I think that we need to address that. I think that this is a great commitment partnership with Stanislaus, and I would like to introduce both the resolutions.
Second.
All right. We have a motion by Councilmember Bublak, second by Councilmember DeHart. Is there any additional comments or questions? No? Just one quick comment, too, to allude to some of our strategy about 2 years ago. We did, as Gary mentioned earlier, we started setting aside some of the TOT to help fund the rewiring and relighting of Pedretti. That was something that came up, saying the lack of reliability of lights actually jeopardizes tournaments like this, in addition to mounds and the grounds and different things. And so we realized that this is a huge economic boom for us, and so we want to make sure that you have reliable lights and LED and the wires and all that. So upwards, I think, almost $450,000 over the course of 4 years. Is it 600,000? It's a huge investment, but I think that is what Pedretti Park, our soccer fields, all these different things attract outside individuals to our area, and I think it's just really important. So that's why this council made that vote.
Yeah, without question, last year we had the most positive feedback on
Great.
the condition of the fields and a lot of good feedback from everybody. So
That's
that was
what we
great.
like to hear. All right, let's not delay this anymore. We have a motion by Councilmember Bublak, second by Vice Mayor DeHart. Clerk, please read back both resolutions and call the roll.
Designating the annual California State University Stanislaus Tournament of Champions softball tournament a city co-sponsored event for 3 years beginning in 2017. Appropriating $5,000 to account number 120-10120-47317, city-sponsored special events from Fund 120 Tourism Reserve Balance in fiscal year 2016-17 to offset facility rental costs at Pedretti Park for the California State University Stanislaus Tournament of Champions softball tournament, and authorizing the city manager to allocate co-sponsorship funds not to exceed $10,000 annually for 3 years beginning in fiscal year 2017-18. Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soysa.
Yes, both resolutions passed 5-0. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Moving on to item D, a request to award RFP number 16-380 and approve a professional services agreement for the Turlock portion of the North Valley Regional Recycled Water Program. Director Cook.
Good evening again, Mayor Soyseth and members of the council. Just hit that. There you go. Okay, so as you mentioned, today is the award of bid to the Corollo Engineers for professional design services and bidding services for the North Valley Regional Recycled Water Program. And because this is kind of a big deal, a big milestone in that project, I want to just give you a background, a little quick history. I know we have Councilmember Scare just to get everybody up to speed and remember where we've been and where we're going. So the North Valley Regional Recycled Water Program would take recycled water that's tertiary treated wastewater from Turlock and Modesto, about 24,000 acre feet a year, or 24 million gallons a day, and convey it to the Delta Mendota Canal, just over by Patterson, where it will be used by Del Porto Water District and some wildlife refuges for beneficial reuse. So it's the largest single recycled water project in the country. It's the first ever use of recycled water in a federal facility. The federal government, the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation, owns and operates the Delta Mendota Canal. It's early on, it was estimated about $100 million project, with Turlock's contribution about $30 to $35 million of that. And the Modesto component is under construction. It started last year. So why are we doing this? What this does is it removes Turlock's wastewater or recycled water from the San Joaquin River. The San Joaquin River is an impaired water body under the Clean Water Act, and well, it's a big deal. What that means is there's increasingly stringent requirements to discharging water into an impaired water body. And so we are under what's called a time schedule order under our discharge permit. It means by the end of 2019, we have to remove our wastewater from the river or install ultraviolet disinfection to disinfect the wastewater, which is an expensive project and has ongoing operations and maintenance costs. So for the last almost 20 years, we've been looking at ways to get out of the San Joaquin River. What this will allow us to do is avoid those increasing regulatory requirements, avoid some of the increased costs of treatment, and put that recycled water to beneficial use. And we are, as part of this, though, we do have to install what's called denitrification. So we are making some upgrades to the wastewater treatment plant above and beyond what we had initially expected to stay in the river. But I think longer term, we'd have to denitrify if we stayed in the river anyway, so it's kind of a wash. So I'm sorry, this is a horrible diagram. I didn't have a good diagram just to explain the project. But if you look on the far right-hand side, that small cross-hatched box is the Turlock wastewater treatment facility. The little blue line is a line that goes to the Walnut Energy Center, where TID uses recycled water for cooling. And the purple line goes up to Pedretti Park, where we use recycled water for irrigation. And the green line is our pipeline right now that goes from Turlock all the way to the San Joaquin River, which is the squiggly blue line in the middle of the chart. And so right now we discharge our wastewater into the river. And it kind of looks like that. So not a glamorous picture, but we have the outfall at the river on Carpenter Road, and that's where our wastewater there ends up in the San Joaquin River. And right now, almost where the fence is submerged in water, which is a good thing. But it's a little bit scary when you have a facility out by a river. And so this project basically is building that purple line. It's purple, right? Yeah, I'm colorblind. Purple line. From our current outfill up Carpenter, West Main, and Jennings over to the Modesto wastewater treatment plant, which is that kind of green area there. And then Modesto is building that yellow and purple line under the river over to the Delta Mendota Canal, which is the blue line on the left. So that's basically the North Valley project. And what we're talking about is the Turlock component, which is the purple pipeline there. And so this will be financed by a low-interest loan from the state of California, from the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. We're expecting an interest rate of about 1.7% over 30 years. And there's potential for some grants and other monies to help finance this project too. But if you remember back in May, you signed a water sales agreement with Del Porto Water District where Del Porto will pay 100% of the principal and interest on that loan, as well as our operations and maintenance costs, as well as a premium, so small additional revenue to the wastewater fund. So there is no cost to Turlock ratepayers, and they're expected to be net revenue to the wastewater treatment fund, which is good to help us offset future rate increases and other projects. So that's basically it. You're looking at awarding the design contract tonight. We put an RFP last October. There were 6 respondents. We had a committee of staff and 1 outside person review those, whittled down to 2 people, 2 firms they interviewed. And from that, the committee interviews, they selected Carollo engineers. The contract amount is about 1.1 million, I think, but with a 10% contingencies, it's almost 1.24 million. So basically, they'll design the pipeline and help us through the bidding process to get this out to bid and start construction. So my back of the envelope guesstimate is the design should be done by the end of the year. We'll go out to bid the end of this year and then start construction early next year, and hopefully be done by the end of 2018, which will be a year ahead of schedule, which would be nice. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments for Director Cook from the council? Any questions or comments from the audience on this item? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman Jacob.
What is the funding source for this roughly 1.3 million? I know it's coming out of the North Valley Regional.
Oh, so the initial funding that we're spending is coming out of the wastewater treatment, wastewater enterprise fund reserves. So we're going to appropriate that money to kind of pay for Carollo's work, and then once the project is complete, we get paid back for that by Del Porto, or through the SRF loan, will pay us back for those design costs.
The entire amount?
Yes.
Okay, so it's like net zero.
Net zero. We're just fronting the costs. Exactly right.
Any additional questions or comments? Sorry about that. Yeah. Any questions or comments from the audience? Seeing none. Oh yes, please. Oh, I didn't see you, Anthea. Come on up. There's no vote we take on the North Valley Regional Recycled Water Project that you are not physically here to make sure it goes through. Yeah. What's going on? How are you?
I'm great. How are you? It's raining. It was raining. What the heck? Mayor Seth, council members, city manager, Hampton, staff, Michael. I'm here before you again, like several times before, to acknowledge our partnership and to say thank you for our longstanding relationship. Each milestone that we take, and tonight is a very big one, brings us one step closer to the objectives that we envisioned 7 or 8 years back with the North Valley Regional Recycled Water Program. The project will bring benefits to the city and of course to the district and our entire region. Despite what some folks might think, just because we're having wonderful, blessed snow and rainfall, the drought is not over. The drought on the west side will never be over, and this is one step for our region to ensure against lack of water supply for agriculture, and we really appreciate it. Your approval of this action tonight will mean, as Michael said, by year's end, that we should be out to bid and you should be selecting and hiring a contractor to make that connection between the Turlock component and the Modesto component. Michael mentioned also Modesto is under construction. If any of you are interested, rain delays caused, well, actually fortunate because I was gone last week, but a rain delay means that sometime midweek next week we'll be boring under Highway 33, so it'll be the first section of pipe that'll be bored and laid. The outfall structure is nearly complete at the Delta Mendota Canal, which is very exciting. I guess if there was one thing I could change, it would be to speed it all up and see if we could get this done by the end of the year. I saw Ryan out there, so I'll work with him and Michael on that. I'm glad you've created a separate fund. I was glad to read your synopsis and see that, because it is our goal as your partner to make sure that that fund always shows that the net benefits to your citizens are there, that it's not costing the city anything, and it should realize a stream of revenues that you otherwise wouldn't have through your partnership with us and the beneficial reuse of this great resource. We have a lot of work to do. Topo surveys and potholing, and there's probably some permitting still left, right-of-way acquisitions in the district. My staff, our board, stand ready to assist your staff in any way we can to get through this. And we look forward to a groundbreaking party. We're good at parties, so we've done that before. And we're very much looking forward to realizing the completion of this endeavor. And I think it'll be very meaningful to this region, and I'm really glad to be here tonight to express from my board and my landowners how much we appreciate our partnership. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Any additional questions or comments from the audience on this item? I think that I'm glad that Anthea was here. This is part of our narrative. The State Water Resources Control Board is that we're putting into play billions of gallons of water, whether it be tertiary water, whether it be water from the river for drinking water. And so this is just another piece of the puzzle, and it just demonstrates the progressive nature of this city council. So it's a great project, and we're glad to be partners with you all. All right, closing public participation, bringing it back to the council. What's the pleasure of council? Want to discuss further? What do you guys want to do?
Introduce motion resolution.
I'm giving it to the vice mayor. You get a second. Would you like to?
Gotta be quicker.
Yes, please.
All right. So we have a motion by the vice mayor, seconded by Councilmember Bublock for both motion and resolution. Clerk, please read back the motion and resolution.
Awarding RFP number 16-380 and approving a professional services agreement between the City of Turlock and Carollo Engineers for professional engineering design and construction bidding services for the Turlock portion of the North Valley Regional Recycled Water Program in an amount not to exceed $1,263,307 from account number 410-51-530-43340, North Valley Regional Recycled Water Project, appropriating $1,263,307 to account number 410-51-530-43340, North Valley Regional Recycled Water Project, from Fund 410 Sewer Enterprise Operating Reserves to fully fund professional engineering design and construction bidding services for the Turlock portion of the North Valley Regional Recycled Water Program, and transferring the appropriation to a separate general ledger fund once created. Councilmember Esquer?
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart?
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Mayor Soisa?
Yes, motion and resolution passed 5-0. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, moving on to item E, a request to award RFP number 16-373 and approve a professional services agreement to update the City of Turlock Economic Development Strategic Plan. Hey, Mayor.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The item before you is a culmination of coming back to you from the September 13th, 2016 meeting where we asked for your permission to issue the RFP 16-373 in regard to updating the city's economic development strategic plan. As you might remember, the city actually engaged in that exercise in 2003 and then again in 2014. However, our intent this time is to look at some very data-driven strategies to kind of take the city of Turlock and its economic development efforts to the next level. The RFP was issued September 15th, 2016, and we received 4 submissions, and they were reviewed, and the 4 firms were interviewed on December 8th. Staff reviewed, scored the proposals, and with each firm, and also confirmed all of their references. Applied Development Economics from Walnut Creek was selected unanimously to perform this scope of work that is included in the RFP response, and that their response is attached to the professional service agreement as an appendix. Tonight we have Doug Svensson, who is the principal with Applied Development Economics, to kind of go through specifically the scope of work and the deliverables back to the city. The item before you is a motion to approve the RFP as well as a resolution appropriating the $87,750 to fulfill this agreement. I will mention that ADE, as one of the four responders, was actually the second lowest bidded proposal, and we felt that the cost actually is not part of the initial assessment, but however, we felt that that was a very fair and equitable cost. It is funded out of the tourism reserve account, and there is no general fund appropriation attributed to this proposal. So with that, I'd like to introduce Doug to you and have him kind of walk quickly through the scope of work and the deliverables. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marin. Honorable Mayor, members of council, I'm Doug Svensson with Applied Development Economics. It's a real pleasure to be here this evening, and I wanted to take a moment to introduce our firm and, as Marin said, walk through the scope of work and the deliverables for the project. We've been working with communities like Turlock for more than 30 years, and we provide a wide range of economic development services, not only comprehensive strategic plans, but focused projects on downtown revitalization, business expansion and retention, as well as a wide range of specific kinds of market studies. But in addition to that, we work with communities to help implement the plans. And so we have a lot of focus on the interplay between economic development and the fiscal health of our clients and communities, and also what are the strategies for financing and funding the various initiatives that are recommended through the plan, and how does a community judge the return on investment from those kinds of funding and programs. And so that's all part of the strategy to make an economic plan self-sustaining and a benefit to the community over the long term. In this project, our primary goal is to provide a solid base of information for the community and the council and staff to make decisions about programs and directions to go, and again, investments to make in economic development. We'll be evaluating your existing program as we understand and have reviewed the prior economic strategic plans, and we understand that you have an active program underway, so we're building on that as a foundation, but hopefully adding some new best practices that really meet new market opportunities. We'll be looking at market opportunities for job development, but also retail and tourism development. All of this is intended to strengthen the city's tax base and fiscal foundation, and so we'll be closing the loop on that as we go along. The process does include us out in the community, talking directly with stakeholders in the community and the business community, and I'll talk more about that in a moment. And we also intend to be coordinated with other marketing development programs that the city will be engaged with as we're working as well. So there's a lot of different steps that we go through, and I'm not going to touch on all of these directly, but basically there is a lot of analysis that goes into identifying what the appropriate market opportunities are for the city to take advantage of, and then trying to synthesize that in terms of comparing Turlock to other communities that businesses are looking at for locations, not only in this region, but in the Bay Area and the LA region, and generally trying to position the city in the larger market, and then from that distilling goals and a vision and a set of action plans. Our economic base historically, but the economic base of the future. We just completed a study for Stanislaus Alliance WorkNet, looking at recent past trends and projections of job growth and labor force requirements. So we have a lot of really current information about what's projected. There's a couple slides here that show what some of those findings are in terms of food processing, growth in cheese and snack foods and wine and packaging, but other manufacturing as well in terms of construction products and logistics. But as I mentioned, there are a lot of opportunities in professional services, computer systems design and programming. Those sorts of things are also projected to grow in this region, and we'll be looking for ways for Turlock to take advantage of these developing markets, as well as education and healthcare. We'll be looking at the retail and tourism development markets. We will do a detailed retail leakage analysis to see what additional retail development opportunities exist not just today, but as the community grows, what additional opportunities will develop as your population and spending continue to expand. And also looking at both business and leisure travel as a market opportunity. And certainly these areas all contribute a lot, not just to jobs, but to the quality of life in the community and have a strong fiscal benefit to the city budget. All of this will get synthesized into a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis where we compare Turlock carefully to a lot of your competitor cities. And again, not just here in the San Joaquin Valley, but how will businesses evaluate Turlock as a location compared to other communities in the Bay Area and elsewhere that they might be looking. So there we'll be looking a lot at the costs of doing business, the kinds of sites and infrastructure that are available, the assets in terms of energy and water and so forth, as well as the labor force and other kinds of those sorts of assets that are important to business. As I mentioned, we have a community engagement process outlined. We'll be talking both one-on-one and in a focus group setting with stakeholders, not only in the business but in the community groups, focused around common themes. And then we are also planning a community workshop to get broader public input during the process. And then finally, the strategic action plan, which will be essentially a work program for the city to implement to achieve its economic development goals, will be evaluated from a number of different dimensions, not only in terms of what should be short-term versus medium and long-term, what needs to come first before you can move on to other kinds of initiatives, but also what are the trade-offs in terms of costs required versus the benefit that are likely to come from these things. What kind of direct resources are necessary in terms of city staff time, what kind of input from the business community, from other investors, what are the opportunities for the city to partner with other organizations and groups and business interests, not only in the community but regionally, to implement some of these efforts. And then finally, what are the key projects that will serve as catalysts, that if we can accomplish these things in key locations, that will stimulate additional business growth and development beyond those specific individual projects. So in terms of deliverables as we go through the process, is all be completed in a comprehensive economic strategic plan, but along the way we'll be doing an industrial market analysis, retail and visitor serving market studies, the SWOT analysis, and a vision and goals and strategic action plan with those elements that I just described. And those interim products will be available as we go for review and discussion and to build upon, so that when we get to the final strategy document, there's been public and staff input and some consensus on the direction that the city feels is appropriate based on the market information that we're able to gather. We're very excited to work with you on this project. We've assigned a lot of our senior personnel to this project and have worked a lot in Stanislaus County with some of the other cities as well as with the county directly. So we feel as though we're pretty up to speed with your market conditions and are going to hit the ground running in terms of helping you identify appropriate opportunities for economic development. So with that, I appreciate this opportunity and certainly look forward to any questions you may have.
Absolutely. Any questions or comments from the council on this item? Yes, Councilman Jacob.
This question might better be answered by Marin. Sure. Unless, did you do our 2003 proposal?
I'm sorry, Councilmember Jacob.
The
What was
economic
your
development plan in 2003. Who did that? Do you recall?
Oh shoot, I do
No?
not know.
So the time lapse between 2003 and 2014 is 11 years, and now I'm trying to figure out why is it that we need one 3 years later. How much could have possibly changed in the past 3 years?
Well, I think if you remember that the 2014 plan was very, it was, you know, a large community task force. It was not data driven. It was a lot of sort of anecdotally driven by sort of perceptions and lenses, and there was nothing wrong with that. But it's sort of hard now. We need to understand clearly, and what the data is behind those anecdotal kind of initiatives in terms of like clusters and SWOT analysis. And we've never had the data to be able to do that. And so this is actually going to take that, you know, sort of the anecdotal elements of the 2014 plan, but really put data behind it, with refined sort of best practices that kind of take it to the next level. On top of that, when he was talking about the industrial analysis and the leakage and all of that, that goes also to kind of feed both the marketing and branding RFP that is coming back to you, but also the tourism strategy. And so those two RFPs need to be fed by solid data in order for them to come up with not fluffy, but real time kinds of initiatives and recommendations with regard to kind of where we're going to go with those two projects as well. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, so the 2014 revision was the Economic Development Task Force.
Correct.
From the 2003 was more similar to what we're getting now. It's just outdated at this point, or
I think a lot's changed since 2003, in terms of sort of the city's economic profile, its footprint, its demographic.
Sure.
And
but
I
in
would
terms of
say
it being data driven and fact,
it had a little data in it, but not a lot.
And are we able to point to any specific benefits that have come out of the 2003 plan that was more data driven than the 2014 one? That was all
I would say so.
community-based.
I would say that the whole concept of really engaging and bringing the West Side Industrial Specific Plan to finish was a big component of that 2003 plan about positioning. I think it has fueled initiatives like with municipal services to continue to invest in the wastewater treatment plant, to look at offering recycled water. I mean, there were things in there that I think that the city engaged in. I mean, I will say that Applied Development Economics has done this for both Gilroy. They were part of that group that initially thought that Gilroy should be a good place to build an outlet mall, and so they did work in Gilroy. They've done work in Petaluma.
Now you're
and-
starting rumors that we're going to get an outlet here
No.
in Turlock. Thanks, Marin.
Sorry, but I mean they've done.
The city's gonna build it.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, it's part of that SWOT analysis of capturing kind of this ideal location where they were to be able to potentially look at that and be able to market that. So, I mean, I think that that the anecdotal stuff and the information in the 2014 is fine, but we really need harder data behind it to really synthesize kind of these more lofty goals into some really best practices and some specific initiatives. Okay, so we want to build an industry cluster, but okay, how do we do that? And so it really kind of takes what the work we've done in 2014 and come up with real solid sort of initiatives that are data driven.
City manager.
Councilmember Jacob, just to piggyback on what Ms. Pitt was sharing, really the 2014 plan is heavily driven philosophical. It's difficult to identify the tangibles in that plan, and this is just the opposite. And it does, under policy goal number 5, economic development, there's a number of strategies that address everything from TOT expansion, your transient occupancy tax expansion, to creating new business opportunity, to working collaboratively with the community to identify new economic approaches to enhance the community. And so instead of grouping economic development, tourism, marketing, and branding, we broke those into 3 RFPs so that we get a broader expanse of proposals. And so what you see before you tonight is one of those 3 elements, and what you see before you tonight is an opportunity to add tangibles that will bring programs and action items forward that can be measured, and we can actually take the 2014 plan, expand the philosophy that was developed in that plan into actionable items.
Okay, and sort of that's what I'm getting at, is that what we're getting is actionable recommendations for City Hall. Because I was actually on that task force in 2014, and I remember everything was very, like, just 30,000 foot level. These are great things that we would like to see in the city, but thanks for the clarification. The last thing I want us to do is spend $87,000 on a fancy piece of binder that just goes and collects dust. If it's something that we're actually going to be able to use, then I can get behind that.
Absolutely. I think one point that needs to be highlighted even more from what Gary said is we did break this down into 3 separate categories, because I don't know your credentials on marketing and branding. I don't know your credentials on tourism, but a lot of times one group is not going to be the expert in that area of tourism or branding or creating logos of things, as they will be to crunch numbers. And so I think that's where we have someone here listening to you talking about the data that you're going to look at, but also that you still want to have community engagement, and engage with stakeholders, have that anecdotal piece there, and also not reinventing the wheel. We have a network of business leaders here in the community that can tell you what you need to know, in addition to grabbing that data. The Chamber of Commerce has a lot of good members that could assist you with that, and I think that you'll be reaching out to all of them to engage on this. So I think that it's a good holistic approach to trying to figure out what makes our economy run. All right, with that, public comment. Is there anyone from the public like to comment on this item? All right, seeing none, close the public comment. Any additional questions, comments from the council, or what is the pleasure of the council?
I'll introduce the motion.
All right.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Councilmember Jacob, seconded by Vice Mayor Dehart. Clerk, please read back. This is for both motion and resolution? All right, for both motion and resolution.
Awarding RFP number 16-373 and approving a professional services agreement with Applied Development Economics, ADE, of Walnut Creek to update the City of Turlock Economic Development Strategic Plan in an amount not to exceed $86,750. Appropriating $86,750 to account number 120-10-120-43288, Economic Development Strategic Plan, from Fund 120, Transient Occupancy Tax, Unallocated Reserves, to fund an update to the City of Turlock Economic Development Strategic Plan. Councilmember Esquer?
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart?
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Mayor Soisek?
Yes, motion and resolution passed 5-0. Thank you so much. Great presentation. We look forward to seeing your end product. Absolutely. Thank you. All right, moving on to item F, a request to approve the proposed succession plan for the City of Turlock. Mr. Bray, come on up. I missed my goal of 8 o'clock.
That's right.
So
I was hoping for that.
we're pushing to 8:30. All right, go on.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Before you tonight is an action to approve an updated succession plan to the city. Succession planning has come to be a catchphrase that is often not well understood or implemented. It is well known the most efficient use of resources is to develop the current staff of an organization. In the context of the plan before you tonight, the goal of this succession plan is to identify and develop internal staff with the potential to fill leadership positions within the city. Succession planning will identify and develop staff to meet the needs of the city through coaching, mentoring, job shadowing, training, and job rotation. Succession planning will increase the availability of experienced and capable employees that are prepared to fill key leadership roles within the city as they become available. The succession plan tonight can be broken into 4 areas: gap analysis, professional training based on identified leadership qualities, coaching, mentoring, and job shadowing, and the Leadership Academy. Staff has conducted an analysis to project openings and positions that require certain skill sets in the next 5 years. We've coined that the gap analysis. This analysis benefits the city by identifying skills needed for future key positions, openings, and allows employees to have a better idea of what skills are needed to advance to the upper level positions. 32 positions have been identified through the gap analysis and are spread throughout the organization. A copy of the gap analysis is provided in your agenda packet. Professional training based on the following leadership qualities will allow employees to focus on the main attributes needed to pursue upper-level positions, while ensuring that employees entering these positions have the attributes needed to provide high-quality and ethical public service. The identified leadership qualities are ethics and integrity, passion for public service, strategic agility and personal resilience, constructive relationships, professional will and accountability, exceptional communication, civility, and the ability to create and inspire vision. Coaching, mentoring, and job shadowing are all different strategies used for developing staff. This plan identifies the characteristics of each strategies and allows each department to implement the different strategies based on their specific needs. A career development plan will be created for all employees to facilitate open communication of the employee's desired organizational growth, which will in turn allow the city to better develop the employees. Through the career development plan, the city will be better suited to implement the correct strategies of coaching, mentoring, and job shadowing in developing the employees. The Leadership Academy is a program to develop core competencies in the areas of government, customer service, finance, and human resources to enhance the employee's skill set. The Leadership Academy focuses on creating opportunities for employees who are committed to lifelong learning, take the initiative for their own personal development, and have a personal interest in advancing their learning and skill set in order to better prepare themselves for future opportunities. Participating in the Leadership Academy does not guarantee promotions, which is a concept contrary to our public sector values and principles concerning fairness and competition. Participation in the Leadership Academy, however, may better prepare employees to compete when those promotional or transfer opportunities arise within the organization in the future. Over the course of 10 one-day seminars held monthly, the Leadership Academy participants will be subjected to enhanced development, learning, and experiences that will assist in making the participants prepared to step into key leadership roles. The one-day seminars include topics such as coaching and mentoring, budget and finance, government 101 and council priorities, professional communications, human resource topics, and customer service values. Staff believes succession planning is a proactive approach to prepare for leadership positions that will become vacant in the next 5 years. The succession plan is consistent with the mayor and city council policy goals and implementation plan under effective leadership. The succession plan has been developed by the succession plan committee, and I'd like to say who they are. We all spend a lot of time on working to bring this to where we are. So it's Sarah Eddy with Human Resources, Juan Vargas, Parks, Recreation, Public Facilities Maintenance, Gary Carlson with the Fire Department, Anna Nicholas with the Finance Department, Nadine Silva with the Finance Department, Joey Mercado with the Police Department, Michael Cook, Municipal Services, and myself. As you can see, all the departments, we've spent a great deal of time collaborating in the development of this plan. All funding for this succession planning, and specifically the Leadership Academy, will be identified and presented to council during the budget process for the upcoming budget fiscal years 17-18 and 18-19. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys have.
All right, thanks so much, Nathan. Any questions or comments from the council? City manager, you want to add anything to that?
Mr. Mayor, the fact that the council has standing before them a principal civil engineer leading the charge on succession planning should send a message loud and clear. Now, Nathan's hearing this for the very first time. He's never asked once, how did this land in on his desk, but he has spent the last 8 months leading this charge, working with his team. Again, a principal civil engineer has taken over control and leading a group of employees from all fields on succession planning. And I'm willing to tell you that any number of those individuals could land at this seat at any time. In fact, Mr. Bray himself, at any time, probably 15 to 20 years out, was likely to be a city manager. So people talk about civil engineers. This program is exactly what we just talked about. The city has a succession plan policy that's philosophically driven with absolutely no programs. This puts the programs and has measurables attached to it.
Yeah, definitely. I'll save my engineer jokes for you. I won't.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. Yes, Councilman Jacob.
All right. Thank you, Nathan, for all the work that you've done on this and the entire committee. I think one point that you actually mentioned it that I think is crucial is that this doesn't guarantee promotion but makes you more competitive. And I read through the entire plan as fantastic. I think that this is really necessary for the long-term health of the organization, but I didn't see that specific language in the plan. So if we can add something to that effect, what I'm trying to keep us away from is creating a sort of entitlement mentality, because I think it's easy to sort of check out if you're know that you're guaranteed promotion. And so and I know that that's included in the language in my conversations with the city attorney and Sarah, that language is included in the Leadership Academy, but I would really like to have something to that effect in this plan as well, just so that there is sort of that consciousness within the organization that the succession plan doesn't guarantee that you're going to take over when the next person is out. So
Councilmember Jacob, that disclaimer is in fact a part of the Leadership Academy. It's part of the application process. You must be selected to gain entry into the Leadership Academy and demonstrate certain attributes and certain visions. But we hear you loud and clear. The city attorney did provide me that feedback, and we will add it in the preamble of our policy to make sure we make that very clear. So thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, Councilman Esquer.
Yes, Mayor. As the new guy on the block going over all this, I think it's fantastic. I've always been an advocate of hiring from within and proficient training. And as I read through this program, I think you're doing a great job. I love the part that Turlock is doing this. I'd like to see it keep going.
Great.
Can I advance multiple?
Absolutely, you can. We'll keep the dialogue going. Vice Mayor, sorry, you had a comment.
Just a point of clarification, Nathan. You had mentioned a certain quantity or number of people that would be retiring between now and 2021.
That's what's projected, yes.
Okay, so is it that's just what our HR projection or personnel projections are?
That's what, through communication with various staff members, that's what they've.
So people have self-identified as planning on retiring by 2020. That's a combination of.
Being within that time frame, yes.
Reluctantly, yes.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Okay, I guess where I was headed with my question then is self-selection also part of the process for participation in the program? In other words, I'm interested in learning more. I'm interested in advancing. I just want a clarification on that.
Yeah, so there's, for the Leadership Academy, you can apply to be in it, you can self-apply, you can be, what's the word I'm looking for? Appointed, recommended, thank you. You can be recommended by a peer or by your department director. There's a selection process that you would go through. The candidates would be vetted to ensure, we can't have all of the city staff attend all at one time. So there is a process to go through.
Thank you.
I have yet to open public comment. Is there any public comment on this? All right. Closing public comment, bringing it back. There's a motion on the floor by Councilmember Scare. It's now seconded by Councilmember Bublak. Is that including the addition of language to explicitly state that this plan does not guarantee promotions by Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
And you're okay with that? And City Manager, I acknowledge it was in there. I saw it, but if we could add it to the preamble, that'd be great. All right. So we're all comfortable? Yep. All right. Clerk, can you please read back the resolution?
Approving the proposed succession plan with amendments regarding the plan not specifically guaranteeing promotion for the city of Turlock to identify and develop internal staff with the potential to fill leadership positions within the organization in a judicious manner as they become available.
Correct.
Councilmember Esquer?
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart?
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Mayor Soisa?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Good job, Nathan. Thank you so much to the entire committee for putting that together. Good job, City Manager. Moving on, item G, a request to amend the City of Turlock fiscal year 2016-17 general and non-general fund budgets. Mr. Hampton.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. As you know, our Administrative Services Director is on a leave of absence, so I'm introducing this item, and I've taken the lead as your interim Administrative Services Director. This evening, we're going to provide for you a mid-year budget review of the 2015-16, 16-17 budget. Primarily, we're focused on the first half of 16-17, so July 1st through December 30th, 2016. I want to take the opportunity to share with you that during the review, we will provide you with forecasted revenues during 2016-17, which was developed during the budget process. And Ms. Marie Lorenzi will provide that for us. And then following that, we will ask Julie Berg to come forward and provide for us a comprehensive review of the augmentations requested. And then also this evening, council will receive the latest update on the general fund reserve. I do want to make a couple of comments, though, in advance of that. First, it's very difficult for us to evaluate whether or not we're tracking revenues because our revenues come to us during periods of time, and they don't necessarily sequence with a mid-year budget review. So we've only received a small fraction of our revenue, and so it doesn't really establish whether or not you would think that 50% of the way through the fiscal year we'd be able to gauge whether or not we've achieved 50% of our revenue. That's not accurate, and you'll see that tonight because of the way we receive property tax, the way we receive sales tax. In fact, you're only going to see 1/4 of sales tax reporting. You're only going to see, you will see just a portion of the property tax. And then finally, one of the things that I heard loud and clear from the City Council time and time again since my appointment, and that is that City Council expects to make decisions regarding all matters of the city with all the information, not a portion of the information. And equally important, they want the information presented to them wholly, not filtered in any way whatsoever. So keeping that in mind, there are 4 points that I want to make. I don't want to call them cautionary notes. I want to fulfill your requests that I previously stated. First, we're all well aware that CalPERS recently adjusted the retirement discount rate, more commonly known as the forecasted earning rate. And we absolutely know that is going to increase our PERS contribution. Unfortunately, when you ask PERS for this information, they will tell you that the demand for that information is overwhelming, so they're not providing any information. And they will check back with us in a year. So we have put our own in-house accountants to work, and we have obtained the formula that they use from their actuarial. I will tell you that sitting down with Marie Lorenzi on this, you better be on your A game to follow how this state develops PERS rates. We believe we've identified it. It's out for a peer review currently. We have not hired a consultant to do this. We're doing this in-house with our own accountants. And we have, we know that our healthcare is going to continue to increase, our healthcare costs. We are a self-insured organization. We're self-insured for our health care with some stop-loss secondary insurance. And we also do not know what President Trump's actions regarding health care will do to the healthcare industry as well as healthcare insurance. So we're waiting to see that impact. Thirdly, we know that this year, 4 of our police officers fully come off of the grant funding, and that will be absorbed into the 17, 18, 19 budget. And then finally, as you're well aware, we are entering into collective bargaining with every labor group in the city with the exception of fire. So I want you to keep that in mind as we go through this mid-year. You may have question in the back of your mind, why would the city manager not support a request from staff regarding operational costs? They are well aware. I'm forcing them to look at other efficiencies. If you ask me to define other, I can't, because we are using every efficiency possible. We're even drilling down on our public safety overtime, so on and so forth. But the fact is, we need to be well aware we have these four impacts bearing down on us, and we're going to have to address them. Labor negotiations, healthcare, PERS rate, and the ending of grants. And so it's my goal not to encumber a lot of our general fund reserve that we will be looking at more closely in the coming month, 2 months, as we work with council in closed session to identify our authority to go into labor negotiations and address these other issues. So with that, I'll turn it over to Maria and ask her to go through the first portion of the presentation.
Thank you, City Manager. The first slide before council is one summarizing the revenue, and it's providing you a comparison with how we ended up 15-16, what the adopted and amended budgets are for 16-17 to date, and what's been received to date. So the top line, $37 million in revenue last year. If you take out the proceeds from the property sales that we had last year, that $37 million is about $35 million in continuing revenue. We're projecting about just under $36 million for this year. To date, we received about $13 million of it. As the city manager mentioned, the property and sales tax, which make up almost, along with the vehicle in lieu, make up almost 2/3 of the revenue in the general fund. That property tax just came in about a week ago, so I'm still working to see how what we got is going to translate into a full year. It's intended to represent around 50 to 55% of what we're going to get for the year, but that doesn't always turn out to be the case, depending on what the staff commitments that the county may have and what adjustments they may need to make as they go out through the rest of the year. The vehicle in lieu, as you can see, we've gotten nothing yet. That should be going up around the 8% that was the assessed values increased for the year, but until I get the number, I don't know what it is. So I'm anticipating that within the next week or so, and that will help me know whether the $5.6 million for this year is on target, a little low, a little high. As the city manager mentioned, for sales tax, we only have 1 full quarters of knowledge to date. The sales occurring between July and September of the year, the state settles up with us for that period in December. And so the Christmas quarter, I'm not going to have that final information until the first part of March. It creates the challenge, as we've discussed over the years, of trying to figure out where we are 6 months into the year when we really only have about maybe 4.5, 5 months worth of revenue in if you average it all out. For the other departments, everything appears to be tracking okay. So at this point, I'm not prepared to recommend to you any adjustments in the revenue forecasted, but hopefully by the middle to the latter part of March, we'll have a better handle on how property tax, the vehicle in lieu, and the sales tax is shaking out, and maybe at that point we can come back to you with something to amend the budget and provide a better picture of where this year looks to be going.
And so just to tag on to that, it's very clear that we're not 50% of the way through our revenue projections, and so you may be wondering, as we discussed, so we're not going to make any revenue adjustments. Just to take you back to the previous fiscal year, 15-16, the revenue projections by staff presented to City Council at the end of that year when we closed it out, they were less than 8,000 off on a $35+ million revenue forecast. So your staff is very skilled and experienced at this. I want to minimize your concern about the fact that you're seeing 25 or 30% of your revenue halfway through the year.
It's coming. I'm just not exactly sure when.
Absolutely. Vice Mayor.
And could you do me a favor, Marie, and define what this vehicle in lieu is, please?
The vehicle in lieu started about 10 years ago, as it was a second part of what was referred to as a triple flip back then. If you may recall, the cities used to get motor vehicle revenue, and what happened when the triple flip happened and this happened was that the state needed a way to generate revenue without saying it was new revenue. They couldn't add new taxes without going to the voters, so they played games and changed some of the sources of the revenue. And what they did, the motor vehicle revenue that we used to get, the monies that people pay when they register their vehicles used to come to the local agencies. What they're giving us now is what they're calling vehicle in lieu, and where it comes from is they established a base back 10 years ago when this change was made. And now that base grows by the change in assessed value every year, versus in the past it grew or changed by how people register their vehicles. So this number, and that's why I mentioned that because of what the assessed value changes, this is going to tag more along with that. And then, does that explain it?
Thank you.
Okay.
I get a headache trying to follow.
Yeah.
So far as I can understand.
So suffice it to say that this number changes by the change in assessed value every year. It doesn't identify with anything else, and that's the way it was set up 10, 11 years ago now.
Councilman Jacob.
Just 2 points of clarification. The sales tax, do we receive that in lump sums?
What happens is every month we get what they call an estimate. And so for the first 3 quarters of the month, for each month we get an estimate in the month after the end of the quarter, the state will settle up. And so they'll look at what they paid you as estimates, what we've actually earned, and give us the difference. Or I've had a few times where the difference was less, so they take it away. And then they start again with estimates for 3 months, compare those estimates to the actual and settle up. So we do get a little bit each month, but it's not till the end of that quarter. And for them, the end is 3 months after the end of the quarter. So like I said, July through September settles up in December. It's at that point I know of these estimates I've been receiving, how much of it do I get to keep or do I get a little bit more?
Okay, so it's monthly more or less. And then
More or
there
less
might be some
monthly with the
rounding.
settle up 3 months after the end of the quarter.
Okay, and then the 4.6 million of what we have so far from the sales tax front for the 16-17 year, is it consistent with prior years at this point? Is there any cause for concern, or do you think we're more or less on track?
The sales tax for the first quarter that I have complete is about, let me see, about 10% higher than it was the same quarter the prior year. So it is doing well. We were projecting a 6% growth for the year. And I went back and looked for 3 or 4 years, and it appears that the first half of the year tends to produce about 55% of our total revenue. But I also saw that if that Christmas quarter fell off, the next 2 quarters also fell off. So that's why the Christmas quarter is so important and why we really need to wait till March to have a good handle on where the rest of the year appears to be going.
Any additional questions? Okay.
Okay,
Marie?
well, I'll see if I can work the technology. Cool. The next slide I have for you is just a summary of expenditures. Again, the same columns as you had before with the revenues. Where we ended up 15-16, the adopted budget for 16-17, the amended budget, it's increased about $100,000. Those are amendments that you folks have done through the course of the year up to I believe the middle part of December, and then what's been expended by the departments to date. So the next slide puts that all together. For in the middle double underscored or double row with the underscore above and below shows the revenues over or under expenditures. If it's in brackets, it's a negative. That means there's more expenditures than revenues. For 15-16, in total, 2.5 million of revenues in excess of expenditures. Again, if you take the 2.6 million in sales proceeds from properties out, that 2.5 million turns into just about a $38,000 negative. For the adopted budget for 16-17 was projecting about $77,000 negative. With the additional appropriations this year, if all of those expenditures are spent and we get all of the revenue that's projected, it would be $192,000 deficit for the year. The actual for 15-16 actually came in. Back in October, I presented my where we were at that point in time for 15-16. again, if you remember back then, I said we were still closing the year. I didn't have final numbers yet. The final numbers ended up to be about $85,000 better than what I thought back in December, or back in October. So once everything got closed and we got all the revenue and all the expenditures recorded, we're about $85,000 better than we thought we were in October. And I think did you want me to do the reserves now, or certainly?
What's the $6.79 million there?
Oh, that's just where we are year to date. It's just what we've taken in minus what we've spent.
Do we
I
spend
wouldn't
at the end of
concentrate
the
on it
year?
much at all.
Do we spend a majority? Is it because we spend at the end of the fiscal year, or is
It's because more revenue comes in the second half of the year than the first half of the year. And this is actually, I'm glad you brought this up. It's a good reason why we need to have cash reserves. More revenue comes in, like I said, in the second half of the year than the first, but the expenses tend to be pretty even throughout the year in the general fund. If you think about your general fund, it's primarily personnel-based expenses. Those are going to happen pretty evenly throughout the year. If we didn't start the year with cash reserves, we would run out. We wouldn't be able to pay people before we got the revenue in for the year. So that's a really good point as to why we need those reserves and those cash reserves going into a year. So.
Yes, if you'd go ahead and address the general fund reserve
Okay.
now, and then we'll turn it over to Julie.
This next slide is just a reminder from what you've seen before, what the municipal code has regarding reserve requirements and what the resolution is that the council passed in 2011 regarding reserve requirements. The amount from the ordinance takes a 4/5 vote of council to spend, and the council in 2011 established a minimum reserve in the general fund of $6.5 million. And that 6.5 includes what the requirement in the ordinance is also. The final slide I have for you is showing your general fund reserves. This is an update from what we did in October. Again, it's including funds 110 and 111. 110 is your operating general fund. 111 is the fund that contains those reserves that have been set aside through the ordinance. And we separate the two out, but when we look at the general fund reserve, we look at them together. The last three columns on the right are the ones that would pertain to 2015-16 and then coming forward. The 9.1 million in reserves as of 6/30/16. As I mentioned back in October, that includes the proceeds from the property sales, and that is about $85,000 higher than when I presented it back in October. Looking at what we just saw in the net revenues versus expenses, if everything comes in as budgeted and everything gets spent as budgeted, the 9.1 million would drop to 8.9 million at 6/30/17. And then in the mid-year items before you tonight for your consideration, if those are all adopted and if all the revenue in those changes and all the expenses in those changes happens, that 8.9 million would drop to 8.6 million at 6/30/17. Is there any questions on that?
Thank you, Marie. I think an explanation should probably be talked about between the years 09 and 13, and just why it went from 10 to 17 to 18 and then back down. Talking about the funds there.
Well, you can tell where the recession was.
Right.
So we were peaking out in especially property tax revenue in 09-10 is when property tax revenue peaked. 010 is when sales tax revenue peaked, and then we hit the recession. Fortunately, we had the reserves entering the recession that the city could weather the recession and have a number of years of deficit spending to maintain the services to our citizens and get us through until the turnaround started.
I guess what I'm specifically asking is the 7 million jump between 08 and 09.
I'm trying to remember what happened back then. Let me get back to you on that. I don't remember off the top of my head.
I'm just saying with property taxes and different things, it's a significant jump, and so I'm not saying about funds being moved. I'm just saying that should be highlighted because I don't want to. It's hard because people look at the funds that we have right now, and you could get scared if you look at the 10 and 9 numbers.
Yeah.
And so,
Mr.
City Manager, do you
Mayor,
want to try and
yeah,
shed some light on this?
I was actually in that time period, I was your interim city manager / police chief. And I can tell you that the council at that time made a decision to transfer monies in self-insured reserve funds into the general fund to the tune of almost $8 million. So these were monies that were held in reserve in your self-insured insurance fund, in your unemployment insurance fund, in your work comp insurance fund, and there was one more, I'm trying to remember what it was.
The liability
The
fund.
liability insurance fund. These were reserves. I'm not suggesting that the city council at that time was wrong. In fact, there was great discussion about completing a comprehensive actuarial evaluation for each of those funds. And the council chose to look at the last 5 years worth of exposure to those funds and use that as the actuarial instead of spending $100,000 to hire an actuarial to do it. And so those funds were, those 4 self-insured funds were reduced in reserves. That reserve was transferred to the general fund, and that's the spike that you see.
Absolutely, and I agree with you. I'm not trying to say what's right or wrong. I'm just trying to give the public an accurate picture of where we are when you look at these things. I mean, as far as you look at 14 and we got down to the 6.5 million hard cap, but also I think we temporarily dipped. That was though to pay off a couple $1 million of debt, right? With different
Correct, yes.
correct, which allowed us to dip down, but then shoot back up to the 9 million and then realize some savings of at least 600,000 in interest savings that we're not going to be having to pay over the course of about a decade, and just different things. I'm just trying to put in perspective because if you look at a bar graph, which is always great, but you compare where we're kind of projected to something like 09 or 10 where that action occurred, you could get a little skewed, and so that's just all I'm trying to put in perspective.
And that's a very valid point, because if you look at 09 to 10, so we know we transferred money out of self-insured fund reserves, because at the same time we eliminated 52 positions in this city, and we and 24 of those positions, as I recall, had bodies in them. The remainder of them were vacant.
Right.
So we reduced our overhead cost, which spiked that. And you know, if you look at the 2013, 14, 15, we paid off PERS side funds and reduced our unfunded liability debt to the state, which lowered our PERS rates. So you're right. This graph does not tell the full history of the fiduciary decisions made by city councils.
Absolutely. Thanks. Any other additional comments or questions from the council or the public on that matter? I should open public discussion throughout this whole time. Any public comments? All right, sorry. I don't think you guys are finished, but
No.
go for it.
I will turn it over to Julie.
There we go. Hey, Julie.
Good evening.
Evening.
I'm going to walk you through the expenditures of the augmentations that are being requested tonight. And your attachment A summarizes all the requests from the departments and also gives you the amounts that were recommended for approval by the city manager. Starting with the general fund and our finance department, there was a request for about $57,000. Those are all personnel related. 44,000 of it being with retirement of one of the senior accountants. We'd like to do 3 months of an overhire for training and transitional purposes. We have 11,000 or almost 12,000 in temporary labor to cover for our maternity leave, our accounts payable clerk. Going to the Department 110, which is our payroll department, a request for $16,000, which is also related to personnel, and this is for a backfill for maternity leave. Department 112, total requests is a reduction of $23,000, almost $24,000. The CPS HR consulting for completion of a citywide total compensation study came in $24,000 under the anticipated amount. So that amount will be going back to the general fund reserve. On the other hand, we had a water leak on the second floor of the public safety facility.
Julie, can I interrupt you and stop you right? So you're seeing a lot of additional costs coming out of administrative services for maternity leave, for overhire, to transition out a senior accountant who has a CPA background, who does all of our auditing, all of our state and federal, meeting all of our state and federal grant requirements. keep in mind that the Administrative Services Department, which has HR, IT, and finance, are all highly technical positions, and there are no secondary positions. So if we have a senior accountant, we have one. We don't have two or three beneath that position. So there is no depth in any of these positions. So when we have someone out on extended leave, for family leave or whatever it may be, or retiring, there is no one picking up their work. We either have to transfer somebody in, hire temp service with that type of credentialed background, or bring in an interim. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you.
Okay, our next request was for, in December of 2015, there was a leak on the second floor of the public safety facility, which caused extensive damage. To date, we've done about $58,000 in repairs. What we're asking for is a reappropriation of the remaining funds to complete those repairs in that building. This is all being funded by a transfer from Fund 111, the general fund reserve, which Marie just went over with you. We don't anticipating using the entire amount, but we want to have it in case there's unforeseen problems. So the net effect to the Fund 110 is a zero. And we anticipate most of these expenses to be reimbursed by insurance proceeds. For the fire services area, their requests, the first one is for $110,832 for increased costs for overtime and associated benefits for the cost of strike team and OES deployments, which are reimbursed in full by the state OES. So the net effect to the general fund is zero. The next request was for an augmentation of $150,000 for overtime costs that have been consistently tracking the last 5 years or several years at about $550,000 per year. The city manager at this time is recommending an overtime augmentation of $100,000, and he and the fire chief will be exploring efficiency strategies to reduce that overtime. The rest of the general fund requests, there are about 7 that total about $4,000.
So, Julie, I'm going to interrupt you again. I just want to make sure council has all the information. The fire department for the last 4 years and their general overtime, so not an OES, because OES is a new operation, we're fully reimbursed. $110,000 the chief has requested is fully reimbursed. So he's already generated $110,000 in revenue from OES, and so it offsets the overtime. But at the adoption of the current fiscal year budget, the fire department was funded at $400,000, not $550,000. The idea is to continue trying to find efficiencies in the fire department for overtime cost, and the police department and every other department, quite honestly. So what I'm proposing is to augment by 100, not 150. So we're only talking about bringing them to 500,000. We started the fiscal year at 400,000, bring them to 500,000. It's very clear they're not going to be able to carve 150,000 out of their overtime. And you know, this is something that we can address through some ideas that I have on efficiency and how we manage our backfill. And so the majority of the fire department's cost in backfill is associated with leave times, holiday leave times, and we pay twice for those leave times. We pay the person on leave, and then we pay the person that's backfilling. So we pay 2.5 times. And but those are labor negotiation issues. Those aren't policy issues by Chief Taloni or by your city manager. So we are working on that. The chief is not confident, and when I look at the numbers, I'm not confident that they're going to come in at 500. The last 4 years, they've come in at between 550 and 565. But I'm an optimist. I believe that the chief can make it happen. But if he doesn't, he knows that he has this document to back him up. And I've told all the department heads, we are presenting council with all the information. I don't ask the department heads to come before you and not tell you that they asked for something and I denied it. Right. I'm showing you that they asked for it and they denied it, so that if my management decisions are wrong, they'll say, well, it's not that I overspent. The city manager under budgeted me, which you approved.
So these total general fund requests, appropriation requests totaled $415,979. The revenue augmentations or adjustments total 267.59. The net decrease to the general fund reserve then is 155,220. Going into the non-general fund augmentation requests, the first goes back to the repairs at the public safety facility, where we will transfer money to cover the remaining costs to finish those repairs. Right now, we're asking for an augmentation of 141,927, though we don't anticipate having to use all of that. The next larger request goes to Fund 305, which is our capital facility fees, admin projects. That's an $11,000 request. This is to reappropriate unspent funds from 15-16 to complete the downtown parking plan. That's to make the final payment to the consultant and to also cover our staff time. And for Fund 420, the Water Enterprise Fund, they're asking for a $100,000 augmentation. This is again to reappropriate unspent funds from 15-16 for the Wood Rogers Well 21 Rehab Project. This is capital project 15-071. And in engineering, Fund 502, there are total requests of $20,000. The first is $15,000 reappropriation of unspent funds from 15-16 for the preparation of a comprehensive study of engineering fees. And specifically, this will include the conversion of the grading and encroachment permits from valuation to time and motion fees, and that's $15,000. The remaining $5,000 has to do with the addition of 5 employees as a result of passing of Measure L, and that would be for recruitment and training purposes. Going to Fund 506, which is our vehicle replacement fund for the water enterprise area. They're asking for $30,000, and this is to replace a truck given to water conservation by our utility maintenance areas, so they need to buy a replacement truck. And the last larger request is from Fund 621, our successor agency, and that's a $10,000 request. It's more of a housekeeping item to correct some transfers between Fund 255 CDBG, Fund 256, the Stanislaus Housing Consortium, and this Fund 621. So if you have any questions about these augmentations.
Any questions or comments for Julie?
Yeah, the last one, the Fund 621. Can you explain what that is a little bit more in depth?
These are, do you want to go?
Some of the enforceable obligations for the successor agency are housing related, the mobile home subsidy program and the Avina Bella program. The housing staff provides administrative support for that. So when we put the budget together, we didn't correctly put the transfers in the funds providing the services from the fund receiving the services. So this is an item to get those transfers balanced.
To offset the staff time from the successor agency? Am I understanding that correctly?
To transfer successor agency revenue to the CDBG or the home fund for their personnel support of the successor agency activities.
Any additional questions or comments? Any questions or comments from the audience? All right, I'll close public participation and bring it back for additional comments, questions, consideration.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Jacob, seconded by Vice Mayor DeHart, to adopt this resolution. Clerk, please read it back and call the roll.
Amending the City of Turlock fiscal year 2016-17 general and non-general fund budgets. Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember DeHart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Thank you, Julie, and thank you, Marie. Julie and Marie. I looked up and you had sat down already. All right, perfect. Moving on, matters too late for the agenda, non-agenda items. Looking left and right, seeing none. Council items for future consideration. Anybody? Councilmember Bublak.
So, Mr. City Manager, I believe we heard Mr. Machado say that he was totally into the pool.
Is that a quote?
Yes.
Totally into it.
Totally into
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
My hope is that you'll check in with him. Well, I don't know, give him a whole day. He said he was meeting tomorrow, but I'm looking at both the swimming for summer and then master swim perhaps early in the morning or something of that nature. and put it in the rec's hands?
The meeting that he has scheduled for tomorrow is a result of a staff's effort to have a conversation with him in my office per this council's direction. So we had already initiated that. Great follow-up timing. Thank you.
Great. Anybody else?
Comments?
Now we're moving to comments. Vice Mayor, what do you have?
Thanks, Mayor. I had the opportunity last week to go to Sacramento for policy committee meeting for community services and the overall briefing time, the initial briefing time. We got some rather startling insights into the governor's proposed budget for the upcoming year. And I think that the thing that impressed me the most as we began to develop our work plan, so on and so forth, is how much each individual subcommittee is dependent upon the governor's successful adoption of that budget. Whether it's transportation monies, whether it's housing monies, all of which are proposed and thought of very strongly, however. And the however is the key word, we don't know. People don't deal with ambiguity real well. I don't. Many of you perhaps do not either, but we'll have to wait and see what the legislature does. But had the opportunity once again to represent the city as vice chair on that committee, and it was good information received.
Great. Anybody else? Yes.
And I just want to let my colleagues know that you guys missed an amazing crab feed. It was awesome. That was the largest one thus far. They changed the venue, obviously, because War Memorial's not suited for us any longer, but it went off really well. We had a great time, and you guys need to make sure you're there next year.
Absolutely. Any other questions or comments? Yes, City Manager.
So my oversight in not mentioning this on items not on the agenda. So, Mr. Mayor, if you would please make a public announcement. It's fine to share. I will be on a leave of absence for a couple of weeks to receive some medical treatment that I can't do while working. And we met in closed session, and council has appointed an interim. If you would please make that public announcement so we can get it out tomorrow.
Absolutely. So we've been discussing for a while this departure for a brief temporary moment of our current city manager, and so in his absence, the council is fully backing our city attorney to take the place of our city manager at that time. So she will be our city manager at the time, and we will work to make sure that the duties of the city attorney's office are met in other ways. So Phaedra Norton will be our city manager for a month
or less.
Or less. That's what we're looking at. But take your time to heal, Mr. City Manager, please. So we will be making that official announcement soon. Additional comments? I just have one as well. I was at the U.S. Conference of Mayors. Part of our responsibility of when we travel, we should come back and explain what we did. I was there at the Water Council with the mayor of Ceres, Chris Vieira, and also Ted Brandvold of Modesto, and we talked about our various projects: the surface water project, the recycled water project, and worked with the other mayors on that. Additionally, one of the big topics was alternative modes of transportation, and so we talked about Measure L, but looking at how smaller cities can obtain things like Uber hotspots and how we can successfully do bike share programs. And so I think that in the next 6 months or so, we should be talking about perhaps some sort of pilot project or how we can do that. Biking and ride sharing programs should not be reserved just for the larger cities. I think we need to figure out ways of doing it. And I think there are ways that we can attack that issue. All right, moving on to, by the way, this is false hope. We do have a successor agency to convene here in a second. So any more comments? All right, I will adjourn to, yes.
Since everybody's reporting, I did attend the League of Cities in Sacramento last week also.
Great.
And I'm still trying to figure out what I learned because there was so much information, and I see why we should all be there because it's just amazing. I met several councilmen and mayors from throughout the valley and the state, and I'm happy to be in Turlock. That's all I gotta say.
We share those sentiments. Perfect. All right. Well, with that, I would like to adjourn to the successor agency. Do I have a second? All right. A motion by Councilmember Bublak, seconded by Councilmember Jacob. All those in favor say aye. All right. Okay. We're adjourned to our successor agency. call to order. Public participation, this time set aside for the members of the public to directly address the successor agency of the City of Turlock. Is there anyone from the public? All right, closing public participation, declaration of conflicts of interest and disqualifications, looking left and right, seeing none. Consent calendar, what is the pleasure of the successor agency? All right, so we have a motion by Councilmember Jacob, seconded by Vice Mayor DeHart. Clerk, please call the roll.
Adopting the consent calendar. Agency Member Iscare.
Yes.
Agency Member DeHart.
Yes.
Agency Member Bublak.
Yes.
Agency Member Jacob.
Yes.
Chair Soiseth.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. We have no public hearings, and on scheduled matters, we're going to handle them concurrently. A request to approve a recognized obligation payment schedule and a request to approve proposed administrative budgets. Marie.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the agency. The items before you are both items that the successor agency is required to do in order to receive the revenue necessary to retire some obligations that the former redevelopment agency had at dissolution. The first is the recognized obligation payment schedule. We refer to it as a ROPS. And it's for the 2017-2018 year. As you'll remember, a year ago, due to legislation change, we stopped doing them every 6 months, and we now do them once a year. Albeit almost 6 months ahead of the year, we do them once a year. This is the 11th installment of the ROPS, and as has been in the past, not only does the ROPS get approved by this agency and it moves on from this agency to the Oversight Board, which has a meeting scheduled tomorrow to consider the ROPS. Assuming both entities approve it, it will be forwarded on to the Department of Finance, who reviews it and hopefully gives us a a determination letter approving everything that's on the ROPS. This one you might notice is much leaner than the ones we've had in the past, and that's specifically for two reasons, and they all tie to one reason. In November, we issued refunding bonds for the 3 pieces of debt that had previously been outstanding. So now instead of 3 pieces of debt, there's only 1 piece. It's the 2016 refunding bonds. And also in that process, in the indenture for those 2016 bonds, it provided us a vehicle to put existing funds in a trustee account in order to have funds available for when the Avena Bella Phase 2 project is ready for the funds that the redevelopment agency had agreed to provide to the project through a DDA, a disposition and development agreement. So we're transferring those monies that we have on hand and project to have on hand through the end of this year to that trustee account. So therefore, there's no need to have that item on the ROPS for 2017-18. The debt service is for the calendar 2018, and the first half is the September of 17 payment and the entire calendar year for 2018 is what's on for the debt service as required of us for the indenture. At this point, because the Department of Finance hasn't reviewed that yet, they did have the indenture, they approved that. We'll see how they incorporate what we're asking into what the indenture says, and we'll go from there. Remaining on the ROPS from prior issues of it is the mobile home subsidy program. That program will continue until the last eligible tenant is no longer occupying their residence. In addition, there's various administrative costs associated with administering the debt. We have a third-party trustee who administers it for us. And in addition, there's certain reports that need to be provided or prepared every year related to the debt. And of course, the administrative costs. The legislation provides for a floor of $250,000 for administrative costs for the successor agency. That's what we're requesting. It's what's provided under the legislation. So if there are no questions, or if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I would ask that both the resolutions from items 6A and 6B be approved.
All right. Any questions or comments from Marie? Pretty straightforward. I appreciate it. Any questions or comments from the public for Marie? All right, I'll close public participation. We can adopt both resolutions at the same time. City attorneys, all right. Do I have, all right. City attorney says okay. Both resolutions are motioned by the vice mayor, seconded by Councilmember Scare. Clerk, please read back and call the roll.
Approving a recognized obligation payment schedule for the fiscal period from July 1, 2017 through June 30, 2018, ROPS 1718, pursuant to Health and Safety Code Section 34177 and taking certain actions in connection therewith. Approving proposed administrative budgets for the 6-month fiscal periods from July 1, 2017 through December 31st, 2017, and from January 1, 2018 through June 30, 2018, and taking certain related actions. Agency Member Esquer,
Yes.
Agency Member DeHart,
Yes.
Agency Member Bublak,
Yes.
Agency Member Jacob,
Yes.
Chair Soisa.
Yes, resolution is carried 5-0. Thank you so much, Marie. Thanks so much, Julie. All your hard work. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, so we have a motion by Agency Member Esquer, seconded by Agency Member DeHart. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous to adjourn. We're opening back up open session to talk about closed session. City Attorney, what do we have up for?
Thank you, Mayor. We're going to adjourn to closed session to consider item 12A on the agenda, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation pursuant to California Government Code 54956.9D to one case.
All right, thank you so much. Do I have a motion to adjourn open session? Do I have a second? So we have a motion by Vice Mayor DeHart, seconded by Councilmember Jacob. All those in favor say aye. Open session is adjourned. Thank you.